into Mill Street and goes wherever it needs to go.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the Board of Selectmen's meeting for December 6th, 2023. Mr. Pino, do we have a need for non-public this evening?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. We do RSA 91A3, Roman numeral 2, lowercase c, reputation.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is to be consideration of, we've got a few sets of minutes here to go through. First one being for October 12th, which was a budget hearing meeting that we had. Anybody have any changes or corrections?
I'll make a motion to accept as written.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Brian, to approve as written. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next are the set of minutes for October 16th, which also was a budget hearing.
I have just one tiny change on page 4, the first sentence, the end. It just said the town manager increased what the department had asked for.
Would ask for, okay.
I'll tell you, I found it hard when it's so late getting these minutes. That's on October 16th, and Brian and I are now at the Budget Committee looking at it, and it was hard for me to remember all the things we said then.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion as to accept them as amended.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Luke. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next set of minutes would be for a regular board meeting, it looks like, on October 18th.
Yeah, I just have another small one on page 8. It is the last sentence before other business. It should say, "We will take no action." Need to put the word "take" in there.
Okay, anything else?
I'll make a motion to accept as amended.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Brian, to accept as amended. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next set of minutes for October 23rd.
I have
Which again was a budget hearing meeting.
yeah,
Go
I
ahead,
have
Brian.
I have a slight change. On the last page, the fourth reference to Mr. Deshays, it should say, "Does the board think we should?" Not the board thing we should.
Motion to approve as amended?
Second.
Motion by Luke, seconded by Brian, to approve as amended. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next set of minutes is another budget hearing for October 26th.
Yes, I have a change on page 4, just before the second budget hearing, the line with Mrs. Murray. I'd like to cross out, "We use this to learn communication." No idea what that meant.
So cross that line right out, okay?
And then on page 5, it says, let's see, I'm Mrs. Murray, the second one up from the bottom. It should say line 820, "There has not been an engineer, 500 has been spent." Other than Marie, I don't know what that "other than Marie" is. I'm not quite sure what that whole sentence is saying without back in there, so I think it should, there has not been, I don't know whether we just strike the whole thing. I can't make any sense. I don't remember what it was about.
Yeah.
Other than Marie makes no sense, so I don't know. I don't know if anybody else knows where we were at that time. If not, let's just strike it.
Strike that whole,
Strike the whole thing out. I think that's all I have.
Motion to approve as amended?
Second.
motion by Luke, seconded by Brian, to approve as amended. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Next set of minutes for October 30th, which again was a budget hearing.
Yes, I have it on page 6, the second motion, and it says, "It was moved by Linda Murray, second Brian DeShay, to increase line," and it says the line "property and liability insurance by and it goes question mark, question mark. Anybody got any idea what it was? We're going to need to see if we can find the amount for that. We shouldn't leave it the way it is.
Right. I'd imagine Casey might be able to look into her notes.
So therefore, I would like to table the October 30th minutes.
That makes sense.
Second.
A motion to table, seconded by, was it Brian?
Brian, yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And our next set is for November 9th, which is the meeting we met up at the Abenaki Ski Lodge.
I didn't have time, by the time I got through all those others, I didn't get through this one. So I don't know where anybody else is. I would like to table it. I'd like to
Yeah,
read it.
Okay.
I just didn't have time. So I'll make a motion that we table the November 9th minutes.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Brian, to table the November 9th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I have two public hearings here. Let's see, the first one, being the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, December 6th, 2023, at the Great Hall to consider a temporary event permit for the Special Events Committee, Subcommittee to the EDC to host Last Night Wolfeboro on December 31st, 2023, and it's from 10 a.m. until 8 p.m. We have a correction on the time, starting at various locations around town, permit number 2023-64.
I would
Linda, you gonna speak?
like to speak to that, yeah. It has been since 2016. Last Night Wolfeboro has been taking place. We went virtual for 2 years, and starting in 2022, we went back to in-person. From 11 to 1, we'll have games, crafts, and displays up here in the Great Hall. It's really a family-focused event. From 11 to 2, also down at the train station, there'll be an escape house put on by the Kingswood Robotics team. At 1 o'clock over at the First Congregational Church, we'll have Just Bob and Marla, who are going to do puppetry and music. Then we're over to Esterbrook Hall for 2 sessions of bingo, one from 1 a.m. to 2 p.m., and then a second one from 2:15 to 3:15. This is being run by the Wolfeboro Lions Club, and they'll have snacks to sell. Then 2:30 to 3:30, we're in the sanctuary of the First Congregational Church. It's Peter Heimlich and the Unusual Suspects. Then from 2:30 to 4:30, there'll be free ice skating at the outside rink at Brewster Academy. And if it rains, we have rented the Pop Whalen Arena from 2:30 to 3:30 for ice skating. Back up here in the Great Hall from 3:30 to 4:30, we'll have wildlife encounters. Then back over to the church for the Carol Ramsey Band, and we'll finish off the night at 6 p.m. with fireworks, unless it is scheduled to rain. If it is going to rain, we're going to postpone it on December 30th, and we will have the fireworks on December 30th. We'll put all updates on the town website, and you can find it on our Facebook site. So that's what's
All right, thank you,
on
Linda.
schedule.
At this time, I'll open up the public hearing. Anybody in the audience have any questions or comments on this event? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Board members?
Make a motion to approve a temporary event permit for the Special Events Committee, Subcommittee to the EDC to host Last Night Wolfeboro on December 31st, 2023, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. at various locations around town. 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. at various locations around town. Permit number 2023-64.
Second.
Motion by Luke, seconded by Brian. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I'll abstain.
And one abstention. Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda, let's see. Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen shall hold a public hearing on December 6th at their meeting in the Great Hall in order to receive public testimony on the Russ Pond North Inlet Sub-Watershed Implementation Phase 2 and dredging feasibility study prior to the board voting to accept Federal Clean Water Act funds of $29,000 and enter into a contract with the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, and further to authorize the town manager to sign and execute documents which may be necessary to effectuate this contract.
This was noticed, comes back in front of you. If you have specific questions regarding the permit or anything relative to the work, Tavis is here to be able to answer those for you.
Okay, at this time I'll open up the public hearing. Anybody have any questions or comments on this event here? Not event, but seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Board members?
Would you like a motion?
Yes.
I move to accept the Federal Clean Water Act funds of $29,000 and enter into a contract with the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, and further to authorize the town manager to sign to execute documents which may be necessary to effectuate this contract.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Dave. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Next on the agenda, the Board of Selectmen shall hold a public hearing on December 6, 2023 at their meeting at the Great Hall pursuant to RSA 31:96-B in order to accept a donation valued at $250 of large banner anchors installed in South Wolfeboro Park by J.C. Signs of Wolfeboro, New Hampshire. You want to come up and talk to us about this, Jerome?
Jerome from JC Signs. As you all know, we can't put so many banners at Pickering Corner anymore, so we've been using South Wolfeboro Park. And as you get closer to the middle of the park, there's a bunch of rocks under the surface, so it doesn't hold the banners securely. And I'd like to put in some anchors that will, anyone can put a piece of rebar down in there and use it as a stake, but we have a special banner stand that works with these anchors that will look better in some cases. These anchors are installed over at the Wright Museum right now, if you want to go and look at them. Banners up for the Christmas Festival of Trees. And if it all works out, I would like to put in 8 of these, because you can, if you've driven by lately, they're on a curve, and I can fit 4 banners down there, or anyone that gets a permit can fit 4 banners down there. So I'm donating the first 2 to see how they work out, and with possible permission to put in 6 more. I'd like to do this at Brewster Field too if it works out, because then we have a place to put the anchors in, whether it's frozen or not, that everyone can use. They're either 8 feet apart or 10 feet apart.
Okay. What I'll do now is I'll open up a public hearing to anybody in the audience who has any questions for Jerome on this or comments. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Board members, do we have any questions, comments? Linda?
Yeah, I have some questions and comments. First of all, I will say that J.C. Signs framing and putting up of the temporary event signs, we're using it for last night Wolfeboro after trying to put it in myself and having it blow all over the place. I think this will be a good addition. I'm in support of it. I just want to make it clear that if there is a nonprofit who doesn't want to use those holes, they can use something else in that space. Yeah. And I just think we need to put that in the motion so it's clear. Right. I think they're crazy not to, but that's...
Yes, but it depends on what they have to work with.
Yeah, yep. And so I just want to make sure that that's clear, but that's my comment.
Yep. Question I would have for Jerome is, what will these anchors receive for a frame going into it? Is it just certain size pieces? Because you use round piping, what I can tell out there now. Is it a certain size round piping that is all that'll fit into the anchor, or?
Yes, the banners are designed to go in an anchor that, in a frame that costs around $250 to purchase, and it's a thin kind of wall metal. We use a heavier wall metal, which we install with rebar. 3/4-inch thick rebar will slide in the holes so that anyone can use them as a stake to hold up tubular kind of posts, or if they can find something that they can slide in there, then that would work.
Okay.
So they could just take and put 2 pieces of rebar in and just tie to the rebar if they wanted to?
They could, yes. Rebar is expensive and hard to come by.
Or
but you can.
2 broom handles?
Broom handles?
Too
Yes, I
big?
think those are the right diameter. Those would work.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying, they can, or if they can't, they could slide it over a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think they're crazy. I think this is a good solution after
Yeah.
trying to get one to stay up, especially in the winter months.
And it'll obviously be available for anybody who's putting up a sign or a banner there to use.
Exactly.
Yep. Yep, at no charge, obviously, in the town property. Any other questions, comments? I'd entertain a motion on this one.
Move to accept a donation valued at $250 for large banner anchors installed at South Wolfeboro Park by J.C. Signs of Wolfeboro, New Hampshire, with the condition that the park will be available for all nonprofits to mount their signs with or without the holders.
I'll second that.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Linda. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Next on our agenda, let's see. Board of Selectmen shall hold a public hearing on December 6th at their meeting at the Town Hall in order to accept pursuant to RSA 31:96-B, in order to accept a donation valued at $7,500 of funds from the Wolfeboro Lions Club for the Warmth and More Fund. Do we have somebody here from Lions that's going to talk to us about this?
I think it's a no-brainer that we accept money.
Yeah. No, I think it's definitely a good program, and we've had it for a few years now, I believe, so.
Yep.
So I'll open up a public hearing. If anybody has any questions or comments, we'll see if we can answer them. And seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Board members?
I'll move to accept a donation valued at $7,500 of funds from the Lions Club, Wolfeboro Lions Club, for the Warmth and More Fund.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Brian. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. The next public hearing, Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen has received a petition to conditionally lay out, subject to betterment assessments, Robin Acres, which consists of the following roads: Loon Street, Turn Lane, Lark Street, Finch Street, and Dove Street, over existing private right-of-ways as a town road conforming to current construction standards and requirements. Pursuant to RSA Chapter 231, Sections 11 and 28 through 33, the Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on this petition to conditionally lay out Robin Acres, to which all property owners abutting Robin Acres in Wolfeboro and other members of the public are invited to attend and participate in. This public hearing will take place at the Board of Selectmen's meeting on October 30th, 2023, for a meeting to begin at 6 p.m. at the Town Hall, Great Hall, in Wolfeboro. At this public hearing, the details of the proposed construction, reconstruction, and repairs and costs thereof will be presented by the Selectmen. Conditional layout procedures may commence 10 days following this public hearing unless within that period a petition not to conditionally lay out Robin Acres in Wolfeboro as a town road signed by a majority of the owners of the property abutting or served by the existing private rights-of-way is received by the Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to step down because my daughter lives there.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, you have in front of you a memo from the Robin Acres Village Association signed by Mr. Walsh, that they are respectfully requesting that your decision be pushed until February the 7th of 2024. Subsequent to that, you have a memo from me recommending you do not take that path. That it puts us beyond a window to be able to get this onto the 2024 warrant, and then we would have to come back in 2025, and then we'd have to redo the pricing and the cost estimates for the project. So I think you should be making a decision on this evening. That's what you said you would do at your October 30th meeting, and I do believe there's some representatives from the association who may be able to speak on their behalf.
Yes, okay, thank you. So actually, what I believe we did at the 30th, where we continued the public hearing into this evening, correct? Yes. So I will reopen the public hearing here, and do you have anything you'd like to say to us up here, or, you know?
Good evening. My name is Russ Fazette. I live on Robin Acres. Thank you for having us again tonight. When we first met and we started to go over this, the town was in a process of developing some guidelines, which is understandable. We got the guidelines. The thing was to do a survey, very first thing. We did the survey. Majority of the people, residents, were for the project. Then it was going to come back to the town, or the selectmen, I should say. To be quite honest with you, when we met, I think we were very surprised that you were going to come back with us with a cost that quickly. Never mind the fact that it's so high. I don't think there's anyone that lives in Wolfeboro could afford those costs, unless we live on the lake. But anyways, we're requesting so that we can possibly get other quotes to the town specs or go other alternative routes. We just weren't really ready or actually really expecting the selectmen to come back that quickly with a cost. So I think that was kind of a left hook, a major left hook on us that we were not expecting. When we met prior, you did tell us it was going to take a long time, which we understood, but this kind of like jumped us, right into the middle of the project and ready to start. We do realize if it gets delayed, cost is going to be affected one way or the other. We're willing to take that gamble. But if we do have the widths from the town, but if we get a more defined spec sheet, maybe we can go out and get quotes from other reputable contractors for a much more acceptable cost. Thank you.
All right, thank you. This is a public hearing, so I'd entertain anybody else who wants to come up and speak to this. Suzanne?
Suzanne Ryan, just a question. Where did you get your quotes from, and how relevant are they as far as time frame? Are they old numbers, are they new numbers? How did that formulate?
We received those estimates from Stantec, who we've used to do a number of projects in town over the past couple of years, and I believe the cost estimate was based on a 2024 construction. Is that correct, Steve? Shaking his head, yes. So it was based on 2024 construction costs. Stantec. Yep, Stantec.
Yep. Yeah, and anybody else in the public have any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Board members, one thing too, in Jim's memo to us, does state that if we delay the approval until February 7th, if approved, it would require the betterment assessment to be part of the 2025 warrant, which we understand that. And also, if approved on February 7th, counter petitions against the project would be due by February 21st, based on 2024 construction estimates, not 2025. So Jim's recommendation to us to deny this at this time and let the process start over again would allow, Robin Akers to do what you guys talked about doing, wanting to go out and get more current or look at other options as far as pricing for the project and everything, hopefully, and, you guys hopefully hoping that they come in, quite a bit lower than what we provided through Stantec. And it would start the calendar over again, and we'd be basing everything on more accurate numbers at that time rather than based on the 2024 numbers that we have now. So, board members have any comments or thoughts on this?
Yeah, I don't have any problem. It doesn't seem like that they do. If we postpone this for another year, only because they can, within that time frame, get prices that they might be more comfortable with than prices we have. We have already laid that out, or Stantec has, so they would be able to plug in new costs to come up with a number for 2025. So I don't see any reason why we shouldn't just delay this or turn it down tonight and then let it happen next year. That's my feeling.
Anybody else have any comments?
I would just suggest that if you continue it, which I would not recommend, that if they're going to go get cost estimates, they have to be to town road standards as of today.
Yeah.
I would think using they have a decent set of specs to kind of follow along with from Stantec's breakdown of the cost estimates as far as quantities, volumes, and all that kind of stuff goes. So it gives them, some good numbers or some good data to start with there anyway. So
You have the full quote, correct? Did you get it?
yep.
Yes?
We received the copy that the Selectmen got from Zantec, but it's a very rough quote if you look at it. I mean, it doesn't really say, it gives the width of the roads, it gives the width of the shoulders, but it doesn't give you the size of the erosion stone. It doesn't give you how deep to degrub the roads, the type of material underneath the roads. So if you want to compare apples to apples, you got to have the same specs. I don't know what Zantec, they were going by tonnage of 3/4 inch gravel, tonnage of 3/4 inch stone. That was, that's what they were going by.
Yep. And those were all based on what our town specs have for road standards in town for width and depth of the different layers of gravel. That would be consistent as far as our requirement goes for a rebuilding to a town spec. So we'd obviously make that document available to you guys too, if you'd like, and
Right,
stuff.
yeah, so if there's a lot of improper material under the existing roadbed, how far down are the town specs required to dig down? Is it 16 inches? Is it a foot? We don't know that. We don't know what those specs are rated to. Yeah. So, that's what, we want to be able to compare apples to apples.
Yep.
And that's one of the reasons why we ask for an as-built plan in our request for information, but a lot of places simply don't have it.
Right.
So whose diligence is it to go out and do some core boring to determine whether or not what's in the ground and what should be done? That should be on you, not on the taxpayer at this point.
Yeah, well, back when the development was done, I'm new to the area, but to the best of my knowledge, there aren't any existing plans on file. I've gone to many of the offices and
Correct.
tried to find those, A lot of you guys, you know my face, so you know that we've been digging, we've been trying to get existing plans, but they just don't seem to exist.
Right.
So we're in the same boat as you. We want to work with yous, but, but
I think, Mr. Chairman, it might be cleanest if they were to withdraw
Right.
their petition. I think that would be the cleanest. We didn't contemplate this, but I think that would be the cleanest for them, is for them to withdraw, and then you have made no decision.
well, could you explain that to us, or to?
You
if
simply
we
tell
withdraw-
this board that you would like to withdraw your petition.
Now, if we withdraw, what does that mean for the future?
That you can
You
reapply.
you just resubmit.
Yeah, at any
And then,
time.
as opposed to us denying it, 'cause if we don't deny it, then it sets in course of a series of events that could then force the pricing to be based on 2024, but we're actually looking at a 2025 warrant, which would put the pricing all off. It could go up, more than likely, could go down, who knows? But, so if you withdraw, there's I guess there's no stigma to it, regardless, because even if we denied it, you could bring it back before us again anyways.
Okay.
But if you withdraw it, and then you come back in February, after I'm sure that between Public Works Director and people here in town, we can get you the information you need so that you can go to various providers, contractors, and get other bids
Okay. Now,
to help
what-
you, and then you come back with those, and, at that point, you can represent.
Okay. What about the material that we already submitted? Would we have to resubmit that?
We would hold that on file for you.
So that would still be good?
Yeah.
I mean, we would follow a similar process going forward. You would resubmit your petition. I would meet with the department heads. We would go through and look at what we need to do and move the process similar to what we've done this year. But
Be the way to go, though. That would be the way to go, to withdraw it. That way they keep everything. Can I take a minute?
Certainly.
Smart, Paige.
Since nobody's taken up the airtime, okay, so did Zantac do that as a courtesy to us to give us that first estimate? Is Zantac
I think
gonna,
it's part of our general engineering contract that we have with them.
so if they come back in 25, did you say 25, 24?
25.
Yeah, it would be for the
Whenever they
25
come
warrant.
back.
Right.
It's gonna have to be looked at again
Yep.
But I think he can.
with a cost
I
to the
think he-
town?
I think he would be able, the field work would be done.
Yep.
So he would just have to update his numbers based on current construction costs.
Yep.
So what did it cost us to do the first estimate?
I can get you those numbers, I'm not sure.
Sorry. So I'm Bill Walsh. I'm the current president of the association. I think most of you know me. So on the heels of her question, I know you also did this request for 6 or 7 other associations. Was there a cost associated with that for Stantec to do those estimates for their layout?
I believe it was under the general assessing contract, but that was for the windshield survey. When we received your petition, we had to get those costs so that we could have an informed idea what that might be. The Director of Public Works, at my direction, sent them out to evaluate it and provided us the cost estimate, which you received.
Okay. So just to clarify, I know Russ just asked this question. If we withdrew our petition right now, we still have the opportunity to, in 2025, say we want to move forward with this because we've got more information now that we find useful
I
to
think
help make
that's
a better
the
decision.
cleanest way for you guys to do it as opposed to these guys either denying it or,
Well, it sounded like they were in process of approving it, without taking a vote. But Mr. Senical was suggesting that we push it out till February. I guess what I want to make sure is that we still have that opportunity in front of us to request, the town takeover if we withdraw it now. Have we
Yeah,
shot ourselves in the
absolutely.
foot and-
Absolutely.
You'd absolutely be able to fill out the petition and come back to the board with that. And as Mr. Pino pointed out, all the data that we have now, the legwork that you guys have done will stay in the file here, so you don't have to repeat a lot of that, which I would assume would be like all the abutters or residents within the, your development there and stuff, all that information that's supplied to the town would be
we would have to
kept on file.
renotice.
Would that Stantec estimate that you presented to us, would that need to be redone?
Steve, could you speak to that? I believe that Steve is the best person to speak to how that process works as to updating price quotes.
So the overall scope won't change because the town standard won't change, but the pricing will need to be updated for '25. So he'll just take his cut sheet, plug in new unit numbers, and just punch out a new number. So it's a very quick process for them to update the number.
What I anticipate, this would give you guys the opportunity to take the time you want or need to contact other contractors to get, 2 or 3, whatever many other quotes you wanted to compare, to take back to your membership, your association, to, have your discussions and then decide, how to move forward with this.
Have you had a vote in your association whether or not to spend the betterment per owner? And has it been approved by the members of your association to spend the betterment monies to do this project?
Are you asking me, have we had that vote?
Yeah.
No. And as we mentioned in the last meeting, the reason that there were a lot of association members here that were caught off guard with that quote is because we did not share that quote with them initially. And the reason was because it was such a ridiculously high number. We knew the betterment was going to be high. We knew there were potential grants and other things that we needed to explore. So there's no reason to bring that to the general association and say, this is what you're looking at, because we never would have gone any farther. We wanted to do a lot more research, try to figure out what was going on before we actually had a meeting. The plan was, once we got a proposal that made sense with a reasonable betterment assessment that most people could probably afford, then we were going to have a special meeting and hash it all out. Say, this is why we're doing this. These are the pluses, the pros, the cons. This is the amount. What do you guys all think? So to answer your question, no.
Yeah, so Jim, before we even consider approving conditionally laying this out, shouldn't we know that we have a contract with that association where they give us a guarantee that they will be paying the betterment fees?
So the way the betterment works is it goes in front of the voters. The voters would vote on it, but if you as the Board of Selectmen vote to conditionally lay it out, they have the opportunity, the residents, to submit a counter petition saying, no, this is too much money, I don't want to spend it for this project. So it's a challenging situation. If their residents didn't know what the price is, there's not much we can do about that.
And then the voters have to approve the,
Voters still have to approve it, that's correct.
Right, even though it's a betterment, it doesn't go against the tax on the rest of the town.
Right.
But, to Mr. Pino's point, that's why our goal was to try to get an actual final realistic, picture of what this project would be and what those betterment numbers would be. The reason we're asking for the continuance is because it's literally, it's only been a month with a holiday in between there, and we haven't had time to do diligence and get all the information we need. There's a lot of unknowns before, we were able to come back to this meeting and have the information you were asking for. At the last meeting, you said, let's postpone this for a month because it doesn't look like you guys have had this conversation with everybody. So unfortunately, this moved at a very rapid pace, and there's a lot of information to gather. And it's been a challenge to try to do all that in a short period of time. So that's why we're asking for the continuance, to give us more time to try to get our ducks in a row, so to speak, so that we're better informed.
And my thought is too, by either withdrawing or if we vote to no on this, that gives you all the time that you need to gather that information. It doesn't put you on another deadline to February 7th, I think was what was mentioned here before, earlier. And if, that way, if you don't have it done by then, then you ask for another continuance stuff. If we just, withdraw it now or deny it now, that gives you as much time as you need, that when you're ready, come back to us with a petition filled out, to apply for the betterment, and then all the information's available to us, and move forward from there.
So when you say deny it now, you mean deny our petition to lay out the roads, or
Right.
deny our request for a continuance, or both?
Would be, it would be deny the, to
Obviously,
do the
be
layout,
both.
which would be the same thing, with not continuing it.
So if you guys voted to deny our petition, would we still have the opportunity to repetition,
Absolutely, yep.
even though you've denied it?
I think it would depend on the conditions. Because if you denied it because there's no public benefit, then I think the subject is over.
Yeah.
I think that's the one caveat to it.
Okay, so I guess in light of that, we would like to withdraw the petition
Okay.
and explore our options and
Come back to
reconvene
us.
at a later date.
Yep. Personally, I think that's the smarter move. I think that, keeps all the options open. It gives you guys the time you need to, to gather up what you need for information, so.
Okay.
All right. Do we need to take a vote to accept the withdrawal?
I think you probably should.
Yep. So I would entertain a motion to accept withdrawal from Robin Acres Village Landowners Association to withdraw their petition to lay out Robin Acres road system.
So move.
Second.
Motion made by Dave, seconded by Brian. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and like I said, we'll work with you, Steve back there, we'll work with you on, as you gather information, and, okay, thank you. Okay. Next on our agenda is a bulk vote, and actually, I would entertain a motion. We had two intent to cut wood timber come to us after the packets came in. Would somebody like to make a motion to add these into the bulk vote?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by, was that Luke or Brian?
Me.
Motion by Luke, seconded by Dave to add two intent to cuts, one on 353 College Road, the other, actually, they're both on 353 College Road. Oh, no, the other one's New Garden Road.
Did anybody else, I didn't get that, did other selectmen get?
Yeah,
I didn't get it.
if you wanted to. Okay, it was my, so in our bulk vote, includes manifests of November 24th of $585,835, manifest of December 1st of $2,531, $531,531, and the DRA 2023 Municipal Assessment Data Certificate, cyclical in progress, and the two intent to cuts we just talked about. That would be item C. So I would entertain a motion.
I would like to point out that we got back a trial ratio study report, and it indicated that our indicated ratio and mean in 2021, it was 76.5. In 2022, it was 61.2, and in 2023, it's 52.4. So that's why we're going to reevaluate.
Okay, make a motion, we approve the bulk vote, A through C.
Second.
Motion by Dave, seconded by Brian. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, board committee appointments for Wolfeboro Waters. We have Beth Marcoux for a term to expire in March of 2025.
Brad, before we do that, I would like to talk to the board about increasing the membership on this committee from 8 to 9. We have one member who is sick and will not be able to make meetings. They would like to stay on the committee and is unable to do that, and also be able to bring Beth Marcoux in, who is working on the assessing subcommittee, has been a very active member. She would be willing to take the chairmanship of that committee and sit on the board. And so the Wolfeboro Waters Committee voted last Monday to ask to increase the membership. And I'll make a motion, and people can decide whether they want to vote in favor of it or not. I move to increase the Wolfeboro Waters Committee from 8 to 9 members with 3 alternates. We're doing a lot of work in terms of the testing, the waters. We are also helping support a lot of the associations who have watershed management plans, and we are trying to put out a bunch of educational material, so the more hands make the work lighter. So that's what I am motioning.
We have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Brian, to increase the membership from 8 to 9 on Wolfeboro Waters. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Luke said aye.
Now I would entertain a motion to add Beth Marcoux in as the new member.
And I would also like to move her appointment until March 2026 instead of 2024. And I'll make that motion to make add Beth Marcoux to the Wolfeboro Waters Committee for a time to March 31st, 2026 for a term.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Luke. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. New business, the discussion, our spending freeze and budget cuts for the 2023 budget.
You have a packet that was on the desk in front of you today. Casey and I put together. We emailed it earlier to you, and she's here to speak on his behalf. Casey?
Good evening. This is Catherine Carpentier, Finance Director. This is a follow-up to the meeting where we talked about the spending freeze and budget cuts. Before you is the 2023 DRA Disallowance Action Plan. There's 5 steps to our plan. But a little background, as you know, the Department of Revenue has disallowed $547,763 in 2023 authorized spending from the town road upgrades warrant. Upon hearing this news, the town manager instituted an immediate spending freeze. We subsequently, the town manager and I, met with most department heads to look for areas where we could transfer funds. With the cooperation of each department, we have identified $434,645. The 5 steps that we'd like to take and the board approve on. Spending was stopped on town road upgrades warrant article in the amount of $71,426.77 remaining. There's no further action there because we just stopped spending on that line item. The line item transfers within the general fund were identified in the amount of $256,756.13. There is a list in your packet of those items, and we'll need you to make a motion to do those line item transfers. Also like you to authorize reimbursement from the accrued leave time expendable trust fund in the amount of $67,424.14. A motion for this line item transfer is also in the memo. We are also anticipating some grant funds in the amount of $39,038 to offset current spending. No action at this time because we are pending receipt of those grant funds. And 5th, the town manager will send an application to the Commissioner of Revenue Administration to outline the above and request approval for emergency expenditure and revenue source pertaining to RSA 3211. I've Made 5 items on those 5 things, a couple needing motions, couple not needing motions at this time. Is there any other backup questions you have, or would you like to?
Board members have any other questions for KC? Or are we ready to, address the motions that we need to do to have this move forward?
I'll read them for you. Item 1, as I said, item number 1, we need no further action due to the spending freeze. Item number 2, would somebody like to make a motion for the Board of Selectmen to authorize and sign a line item transfer between general fund departments in the amount of $256,756.13 into the 2023 Town Road Upgrade Line 0157793-118.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Dave. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Item number 3, motion. Would somebody entertain the motion of the Board of Selectmen will authorize and sign a line item transfer between police budgets in the amount of $67,424.14 into the 2023 Town Roads Upgrade Line 0157793-118, and as agents to expend, seek reimbursement from the trustees of the trust fund for that same amount.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Luke, seconded by Dave. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Item number 4, no action currently. We're awaiting the disposition of the grant funds. And item number 5, would somebody entertain the motion of, under the direction of the Board of Selectmen, the town manager will initiate procedures necessary under RSA 32-1 for emergency expenditure and over expenditure.
So moved.
Is it 32-1 or 32-11? I think it's 32-11.
I'd have to
Yeah, the
agree
front,
with you.
front page had it at 23211.
I'd have to agree with you.
Okay. I'll make that amendment that we make it 32-11.
Okay, so I lost track of who had the motion on that. Brian had the motion, and do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Lynn, seconded by Linda. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That is all I have to speak of tonight. That is what we're calling our action plan. This does still leave us with anywhere for a $150,000 shortfall. We are still hoping for some spending favorability pending no storms or emergencies. So we're just holding our breath, waiting till 12/31, and we'll be in contact with Department of Revenue.
Yeah, I did have a productive conversation with my peer, essentially, with the Department of Revenue today. He understands the situation. He says there are some communities that go through this on a couple times a year. A couple communities go through this. He equated it to a real-time, real money problem, and he feels that based on what I was able to explain to him with the donations as they came in, and then how we sit with our other funds, he felt we were in a good position, and he wasn't terribly concerned. He felt that, as we've noted, that there will be a tick mark on our audit report, which we'll be able to explain away. And honestly, if weather cooperates, Casey, myself, with the cooperation of department heads, are hoping that we can really close the gap and make this come to reality without having to tap any other funds. I know there's some board members that probably have some follow-up to that, and I'll be speaking to this at the Budget Committee on Tuesday night with a possible follow-up on Thursday if they have any further questions.
All right.
Are there any other questions?
Anything else from the board? All right,
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim and Casey, on that.
All righty, thank you.
And thank you to the department head and staff for coming through and helping us out with this. It's been a huge help.
Okay. Next on the agenda is approval for the fall Josiah Brown Scholarship Awards.
So you have a memo here outlining 3 worthy recipients that we're recommending to award scholarships to. As you can see, we have a healthy balance in this account per the memo of $66,737. We are recommending that the Board of Selectmen issue these awards to these 3 students, and your discretion on what you feel the amount should be.
I have a question.
Linda?
Jim, with the 66,000, is my recollection is we get payments in the spring,
I believe that is correct.
so we're going to have another significant.
Yep.
And did we give 3,000 last quarter? Do you remember?
I believe it was 3,000 the last time around.
So what would be the board's thoughts of, for this year, or for this this semester?
I would make a motion that we continue with the $3,000 scholarship funds for these 3 individuals, Caitlin Folsom, Abigail Heald, Marion Lambert.
Do we have a second?
And the only reason for
Second.
that would be, we've had as many as 5 or 6 at some time, and we could have that the next time.
I guess I'm concerned at the amount of money we're holding. And if we have 66,000 now, and I think it's around 35,000 that we get, we're just accumulating what we have and not getting it out. And Jim, did we change the eligibility this last year?
Not this last year. There was discussion after the last award to revisit the parameters. I don't think the board ever got to that point, but I think it does make sense to revisit what those parameters are. I think the last time we did it was in '21. And I got a lot of recommendations from some school teachers, guidance counselors, as to what those thresholds should be. So I think that's a conversation that we can have going forward to adjust what the minimum income limits should be for people to be able to apply.
Do we take a copy of the FAFSA as part of our documentation, backup documentation for these scholarships?
I don't believe the FAFSA we received, no.
I thought we needed, I thought that was one of the required, that
I'll double
you don't
check, but
know.
Yeah, I requested it last time just because it's a good barometer to use, because everybody has to fill out the same form in the same way, in the same shape. So, and if colleges deny money, financial assistance through FAFSA, then that's a good thing that we could use as a guide.
And I agree with Brian, if you're going to get scholarships anyway, you're going to fill it out anyhow.
Correct.
I'm willing to work on this. I'll work with Amy and see if we can get it, because I just don't think we should be accumulating these funds. I'd like to get them out to students. I would be more willing to give them $4,000 each, but I will go along with the motion. I just hate to accumulate the funds.
I think it'd be good to visit the parameters that we have there, and hopefully be able to open it up to get more applications, so we have more recipients of it would be ideal, I think, so. And I think having, putting that on our work agenda to have it done for our next round of scholarships would be the way to go. So we have a motion and a second to award $3,000 to each of these 3 recipients here. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. This time, we'd like to, understand I'd like to entertain a motion to table the assessment revaluation bid award.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to table has been, motion made and seconded by Linda and Brian. Luke, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next, reduction of road surety for Village Corner.
You have a memo in your packet regarding this item. Town planner is here to speak on its behalf if you have questions. They're looking to motion to authorize the town to reduce the road surety held by Village Corner in the amount of $200,506.55.
Yeah, the planning board obviously went through this a couple of meetings ago, I believe now, with the recommendation from Ty and Bond. Had been doing the inspections out there on the road work and everything. This will leave $20,000 for some of the small items to take care of, which I believe, they listed on the back here. Yeah, for minor stabilization of the shoulders, for loaming and seating, and setting of some boundary pins in the remaining house lots. Any questions or motion from the board?
You need a motion?
Let's see.
Motion to authorize the town to reduce the road surety held for Village Corner Road in the amount of $200,506.55.
Second.
Motion by Luke, seconded by Dave. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next on the agenda is approval for water and sewer rate adjustments.
So last year, you saw a presentation regarding water and sewer rates from Underwood Engineers. They provided some recommendations. We went forward, and I've attached the minutes. Last year, you approved going forward with a 4% increase in the 3% and 9% respectively, and 3% thereafter. So the 9% was for sewer, 3% was for water. You made that motion, approved it. We increased the rates to those levels last year. This afternoon at about 5 o'clock, we received a updated memo from Underwood Engineers that basically affirms our position. We are a little bit short on the sewer. They're actually recommending 4%, but I think I feel comfortable with the 3% with our fund balance in that account, and the fact that I think we've got some efficiencies that we can find in there going forward. As well, within the water rate, it outlines the projects for 2024 in here. As capital projects, it shows you if we do a 3% increase, what those revenues will be going forward. And it does also contemplate the South Main Street waterline replacement bond payment, which would begin in 2026 on page 1.
Board members, any questions, comments? Or?
Yeah, I'm pleased to get this. I had had some issues with knowing which of the projects were included, and some of them were not included in the 2022 study, and this makes me feel a lot better that we have accounted for the projects that we have done, projects that are going forward in terms of our warrant article, so I'm okay with a 3% and a 3% knowing that the town manager and staff is going to try to cut the operating expenses to make it work.
Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we raise the water and sewer rates by 3% starting January 1, 2024.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Brian. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Okay. Next is the approval for a request for extension for our ARPA grant and clean water state revolving fund loan for the Mill Street Pump Station. See in the packet here, something I've been working on with the town here and communicating with DES and also HDR, our engineers on the project. Due to the fact that the engineering took longer than anticipated, and they also realized they needed to extend the time frame of the project to be completed to bring it up to over 400 days from the original, I think it was 3 or 350 before, was going to go beyond the expiration date of the loan agreement that we had in place. So I'd had conversations with Alicia Clark down at DES. We'd sent a letter to them back on October 20th, basically saying our intent to request an extension of these funds. And part of what we're seeing here tonight are these, the certificate of vote of authorization for the amendment and for the signature amendment number 1, and they're going to need a certificate of insurance from us also. The information DS would need to be submitted to them by the end of this year, by December 31st, to have this extension granted. So that's what this is all about. If any questions, I'll try to answer them. If not, we have a proposed motion in that memo on the front page there. If somebody wants to make a motion.
A motion to vote in favor of applying to submit the amendment to the original grant agreement to extend the project's completion date and to authorize James Pinio as the signer of all current and future documents, including disbursements pertaining to the grant agreement.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next is discussion regarding our emergency operations plan update per budget committee.
So the other evening at the Budget Committee, we went in front of them to ask to place $3,000 into the 2024 budget for an update of the emergency operations plan. This would help us to be able to leverage some grant funds for the EOC and the generator at the Public Safety Building. The Budget Committee wanted input from the Board of Selectmen on this matter. The chief is here to talk about what the process would involve, and this really, all we need is a motion to recommend that we, the Budget Committee increase the budget by $3,000 for the purpose of doing the emergency operations plan update. Chief?
Thank you. To kind of bring you up to speed on how we got here, as the fall unfolded, I completed the application for grant funding through the State Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management to offset some of the cost of the upfit of the new EOC and the new public safety building and the generator associated with the public safety building. That application was submitted, and if it works through the process and approved as submitted, would return to us slightly more than $102,000 towards that project. It's a 50-50 grant. The other 50% would be part of the bond that was to pay for the project. Once it was submitted, I received feedback from Homeland Security that they felt we needed to update the town's emergency operations plan, and they wouldn't consider that original grant application. They were willing to do it concurrently, but they wanted to move forward with that as well. Frankly, we anticipated putting together a program for that next year, and if there was any funding involved, asking for it in '25. But that said, here we are. Upon receiving that, I created, for lack of a better term, a mini RFP and sent it to 5 vendors who do the emergency operations plan updates around the state. In the process of getting responses, but what we've established at this point is that if we add approximately $3,000, since been revised to $2,700, that would give us our share going forward for 2024, which would allow us to update the existing emergency operations plan and remain in the mix for that $102,000 potential grant. We apologize. This all is literally happened in real time in the last few weeks, and obviously we weren't in time for the original budget submittal and so forth.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions from the board? Dave?
The original number was 3,000, you just mentioned 2,700.
Yeah, I received an email.
Which number do we want to use?
I received an email from one of the vendors who was kind of reevaluating where it stood, and she essentially made a correction and said it was certainly they were willing to quote us 2,700 or instead of the original 3,000 that she quoted. As far as I'm concerned, 2,700 is fine. It solves the problem.
Yep.
Do you know what line in your budget?
That said, I was looking at that today. What I would propose we do, if it's not problematic, is create a new line in emergency management for outside services, which doesn't appear in there. Short of that, I would recommend we put it in line 610 as general operating supplies. It's the closest description that exists. I would defer to the finance director or the manager as to how complicated it would be to actually create a new line.
I mean, I think all we do is make a recommendation to put that in the
I would
operating budget.
call it outside services,
And let them to decide where they want to put it. I'll make a motion to recommend that, to the Budget Committee, that it adds $2,700 into the 2024 operating budget for an update of the Emergency Operations Plan.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Brian. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay, let's see. Next on the agenda, warrant article approval.
Okay, so we'll go through warrant articles this evening. There's still a lot of work to be done on these. Most of the department heads are here to speak on behalf of their article as we move through it. If there's a warrant article that you want more time with, I would suggest that maybe we try to hold another meeting in advance of our next scheduled meeting, because it kind of is running up against time with the Budget Committee. So without further ado, we'll get into it. The first page within your sheet lays out where the funds are coming from and what the projects are. Casey's got an updated sheet that I believe you have a copy in front of you that lays out what exactly that would do to the tax rate, enterprise funds, et cetera. So the first warrant article is obviously our operating budget. We won't know that for a few weeks yet. The Port Wedland project, so this is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $769,710 for the purpose of securing drainage easements in Port Wedland and for engineering and construction and adequate stormwater drainage system, further to authorize the issuance of $769,710 in bonds and notes for this project in accordance with the provisions of RSA 33, the Municipal Finance Act. Also to further authorize the Board of Selectmen to issue, negotiate, sell, deliver such bonds or notes, and to determine the rate of interest thereon and maturity and other items thereof, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to participate in the State Revolving Loan Fund, RSA 48614, established for this purpose, and to allow the Board of Selectmen to accept such monies as become available from the federal, state governments, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to take any other action relative thereto. This project was approved by the voters in 2022 in the amount of $430,290. Warrant Article 14. This warrant article, if approved, will be additional funds needed to complete the project with an estimated total cost of $1.2 million. We have a significant amount of backup here. Don't need a vote on this tonight because this is going to be a bond hearing, and we'd like to schedule this for our first meeting in January, which I believe is the 3rd.
Are we you're going to send this somewhere to look at the wording?
Yes.
Because I always thought you had to raise and appropriate the full amount, and so that the full amount would be the 1.2 million, and then some is to reauthorize in the new funds. So that's the only reason I'm.
Yeah, so we Casey and I had a conversation about this today, some of these reauthorizations, because there's three or four
Yeah.
of them in this, and they are mucky. So yes, these will go for legal review. And again, this will be a bond hearing, so there's no need to vote for it. With your permission, I'd like to schedule the bond hearing for I believe it's January 3rd, which is your first meeting in January, so that we can keep this moving and get it noticed. Thoughts on that?
Will we have a concrete contract with the Port Wetland Association for the $100,000 that they are contributing to this project before we vote?
I have
On
asked
this-
that question of the representative. He said he would be getting back to me. I haven't heard back from him yet. I've reached out, correspondence, waiting to hear back.
Okay.
And will we know that we have all the easements?
So the easements, I believe Stantec is working on that. Steve's shaking his head, yes, they're still working on it. The goal on this project from Stantec's point of view was this thing would be shovel-ready, bids would be out contingent upon voter approval, and then we would be able to tackle the project once road bans come off. But I know Steve is working with Stantec on securing whatever is required for easements.
And last time we had a condition on the warrant article that nothing could be done until all easements were in, and that agreement was secured. And I would assume we will put those same
Yeah, so the-
conditions on?
That's why we used that, referred to that previous warrant article, because all those same conditions would apply.
So will there be a condition that we have the $100,000 of funds all in one lump sum? Or is it going to be a 10-year, $10,000 pay? Or how are they going to contribute?
So I have had it's my understanding that the original conversation that took place was it would be payment over time. I don't have anything written to that. Waiting to hear back from the representative. I also asked him if they had additional funds where the price of this project has increased significantly.
And they're not going to piggyback on us with any other project. We're not touching their beach. We're not doing anything with their beach. There's nothing more than what we had in the last project. Okay.
That's correct.
So would you like a motion to move this to?
No,
the bond
because it's got to
hearing?
go through the bond hearing.
I mean, to move it to that January 3rd?
I don't think we need to, because
Okay.
it goes through bond hearing.
All right.
It doesn't go to the budget committee. Town road upgrades, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $700,000 for the purpose of upgrading and engineering for town roads, sidewalks, and drainage systems. I'm supposed to remove sidewalks, sorry, Brian. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 32.7, Roman numeral 6, and shall lapse on December 31, 2025, or upon completion of the project, or whichever comes first. Estimated tax rate impact for 2024 is 29 cents per thousand of assessed valuation. Steve Randall has taken and revisited based on the numbers that you gave him. He's looking at Pleasant Valley Road overlay, $250,000. Townsend Dam outfall, $110,000. Dirt road upgrade, $75,000. Beach Pond section, $100,000. Upper Haynes Hill Road, reclaim and base, $150,000. Culverts, $15,000, for a grand total of $750,000. He can speak to any questions you may have, and
I would like some clarity on the Townsend Dam outfall. On what side are you doing? Just one side of it, or?
So it's just the outfall side. If you're heading in, it'll be the left. All that, so it's taken me a year since I've been here working on that to get the permits, to get the plans for all that scouring that's underneath there. And when it was constructed originally, it's the wrong size cobble. So we're developing the plan to reinforce that whole edge, because that dam is leaking through, as you know.
And that, I thought it was also leaking halfway through the middle. And
So-
is this going to take care of that?
This is only going to take care of
Okay.
the outside of it, not the box culvert and the inlet side.
Okay.
That's the dam part.
Okay.
That's a different,
Okay.
that's a whole different animal.
So what you're going to see is what is outside. It'll all be visible. It's dealing with that retention pond that's
Correct.
hardly ever there.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So would the board like to vote to recommend or not, or hold off?
You want to do one piecemeal?
I think we have
Yeah, I
to.
think we want to do it by article.
We have to.
I'm willing to vote for this because we've taken a big chunk off of it, and that's the reason at this point, I'm comfortable. But I'm also, if other people want to think about it, I'm willing to wait.
Yeah, this is 400,000 or 500,000 less than we traditionally spend on our roadways. So I think it shows that we're being as fiscally responsible as we can be and maintaining our roads to the best of our ability.
And the other thing, remember, this warrant article traditionally is unassigned fund balance the past couple years. That's not reflected in this issue. This is actually tax rate impact.
And, one thing I'll say, before we use the unassigned fund balance, it was usually the highest approval rate of all our warrant articles.
And it still was this year, this warrant article, when I was talking to DRA today, this approved like 1477 to 125 or something like that.
Are sidewalks going to be scratched from this
I
because
will scratch that based on, you had requested that last time.
Yeah, because we have our separate sidewalk fund that we,
Well, and none of these roads have sidewalks with them.
Yeah.
in them. If there was roads that had sidewalks in them, I think it would be a valid argument because it's part of the drainage system, the curbing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but these don't have it. So I will remove that.
I'll make a motion to move the town road upgrades to the warrant.
second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And on top of that, do you want to vote to recommend?
Oh.
We really need two for each one.
I'll make a motion that the Board of Selectmen vote to recommend.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Brian. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
5-0 on that.
Next one, library landscaping reauthorization, to see if the town will vote to reauthorize warrant Article 29 of the 2022 warrant, which states to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the not to exceed amount of $250,000 for the purpose of construction and installation of a design landscape plan on property surrounding the library building, and to authorize the Wolfeboro Public Library Board of Trustees to expend this amount and to accept donations and grants, and it will have no impact on the tax rate. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 32.7, Roman numeral 6, shall lapse on December 31, 2025, or upon completion of the project, whichever occurs first.
I would like us not to do anything on this. I think the trustees are getting some legal opinion. I'd like to do that with this one and the solar.
Okay. And I heard that same comment, and I told Allison that these would be going to legal counsel after tonight's meeting. So library solar, the only change on this one is 76 kilowatt. Before it was 96. That was a typo on my part. Again, this is going to go to legal for further review, so no real action required. Police vehicle replacement, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $74,000 for the purpose of, for the purchase of a police cruiser replacement vehicle and ancillary vehicle equipment, with $3,000 from the police detail revolving fund created by warrant Article 23 in 2006, which has accumulated from special details.
We need to recommend this or not recommend?
If you so desire. If you have Questions for the police department, the captain is here.
Yeah, I'd like the captain to
Tax rate.
reiterate how many you have, how many you had to mothball,
Yeah.
and why this is important.
Right now, this year, from last year, we replaced that one Crown Vic. This year, we dropped 2 Crown Vics, not Crown Vics, well, I'm going way back, Tauruses. And so all the 2013 Tauruses are off the road right now. So right now, we're functioning with 9 vehicles. So this warrant article will put us to 10 vehicles, 1 less than when we usually do, and that's where we're going to operate, with 10 vehicles at this time. And it's very important, as you can see from our budgets, that we have, I would say, 5 vehicles that are over 100,000 right now that are in patrol. So at this time, these vehicles are what we get around in and get to the calls. So they're very important to us. So 1 a year is
And
what
it's
we're
not
asking.
on there, but it is 3 cents per thousand.
I was just going to ask, what's our tax rate increase?
Any other questions for the captain?
Yeah, how long before you'd have a cruiser when you place an order? Because we're hearing numbers all over the place for vehicles.
Yeah, so the hardest part actually is not as much as the cruiser, is actually the upfitting, all the equipment. That takes a while. So right now, depending on where we go and what they have on the lots, we possibly could get it sometime in April or May, because they might have some on the lots. They may not. If we have to order it straight up, it will take about 9 months. But the upfitting costs for all our electronics, right now, they've been taking 6 to 7 months.
Okay. Board members, do we want to move this to the warrant?
Motion to move the police vehicle replacement to the warrant.
I'll
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Luke, to move this forward. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to recommend, or a vote to recommend this by the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Luke, to recommend. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is the Public Works Vehicle and Equipment Replacement Capital Reserve Fund, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $380,000 to be added to the existing Public Works Vehicles and Equipment Capital Reserve Fund, which is under the custody of the trustee of trust funds, with selectmen designated as agents to expend. Estimated tax rate impact for 2024 is 16 cents per thousand of assessed valuation. Anticipated capital reserve fund balance for 2023 is 96,000. Steve Randall is here to speak on this behalf. I believe he's got 2 vehicles programmed into this replacement for 2024, and more coming down the road.
You know what I would like for this? I'd kind of like to not move it forward today, and I'd like that spreadsheet that takes the 96, the ones that you're going to take out and do it over 5 years, so it's really clear exactly what you're going to purchase, what you're going to purchase the next, and that it looks good for 5 years. And if I get that, I'm comfortable to move forward. You've given it to me in many different ways.
You'll have that in the morning, because that's all done.
Oh,
Actually,
okay.
I went out 10 years. So
Okay.
10 years, it has the balance from
Perfect.
the ups, the downs, the whole through.
Yeah,
So-
that's what I think we need to see to
We-
make
we
sure
can-
that that's solvent.
Okay.
I'm sure it is, but I like it in my hand.
So we'll hold off on that one.
Yep.
Building Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be added to the existing Building Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund, which is under the custody of the trustee of trust funds, with selectmen designated as agents to expend this capital reserve fund. Estimated tax rate impact for 2024, 2 cents per thousand of assessed valuation. Anticipated capital reserve fund balance at the end of the year is going to be $51,000.
Here's another one. We just met with a guy with a patch the slate roof. I wonder we should hold up and get that quote. There is $51,492 in there now, but I kind of like to have that quote before we, what do you think, Brian?
In case we need to up this, or?
Yeah, I'm afraid, we need to do that. And I just think we should, if he was going to get it to us pretty quickly.
Yeah, we forwarded him an email today, but I haven't heard a response. I will follow up with him with a phone call tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, so is the board on page with that to hold off? Okay. Water Resources Non-Capital Reserve Funding, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be added to the existing non-capital reserve fund, which is under the custody of the trustee of trust funds, with selectmen designated to expend from this non-capital reserve fund. Estimated tax rate impact for 2024 is 2 cents per thousand of assessed valuation. 2023 anticipated capital reserve fund balance at the close will be $56,000.
This is this is the water resource, right?
Yep,
Correct.
And what did you have that we'd have at the end?
56,000.
I have a very different figure than that. I think we'll have 136,550. Casey, what do you have?
I had a withdrawal in this year for a couple different items, and I can't list them off the top of my head, for $80,000 that you've already approved.
My understanding, 80 was not going to come out, only 40 was.
40. But
there's
I
a
think there
couple
was another
different-
project.
Yeah, there's different projects that you've, I have a little spreadsheet.
Okay, because the one I last got it from you,
No, I will have to get back to you, because I
Okay.
have notes where the board has committed funds. The funds haven't come out yet, but I've got commitments.
right, we have 23,000 for Russ Pond, and then I think it was 3,000 for the Wolfeboro watershed to match on the Birchmont project, and then there was the 40,000. I don't know of any other than those.
Now, Wolfeboro Waters is bringing forward a,
I'm going to get to that. I can
Okay.
take care of that.
okay.
I just want to make sure I know this first.
Again, I probably need to get back to you, because
Okay.
I just have the total amount coming out. I'd have to get to that backup
Okay,
sheet.
I can do that.
So we should probably hold on this one
Yeah,
too
I'm
then.
going to, but I want to also talk about the warrant article proposed by Wolfeboro Waters that I had sent out to the selectmen this afternoon.
I added it to the back of,
Yeah,
the
I saw it
package.
in there, but you added it to the back. I'm going to make a change. I stapled it to this. I would like to add from Wolfeboro Waters, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 for the purpose of engineering a drainage system from Sewell Road down the Jockey Cove side of Forest Road, and it should say to the carry. I was corrected on that. This appropriation is a non-lapse and pursuant to RSA 32:7-6, and shall elapse on December 31st, 2025, or upon completion of the project. The Wolfeboro Waters met on Monday. We had a presentation from Fred Kane talking about some of the issues that were there with the E. coli, and also concerns about how to replace that drainage. We also received a letter from the Conservation Commission saying that that culvert should just not be replaced in kind, that we should look at some catch basins. And so Wolfeboro Waters felt that the best thing to do was to do nothing, which with the budget freeze, that's what's happening, and that to do an engineering, have this area engineered so what we do there will definitely work. So
I'd like to add something, another portion to your,
okay.
would be to add in some language that the Board of Selectmen, allow the Board of Selectmen to accept such monies as become available from the federal and state governments, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to take any action or to pass any other vote relating thereto. Basically, to allow us, if there's any grant money available, to go towards us, to be able to take
Yes.
that too.
I'd add that language. Good catch, yes. So I would like that to add it to, and that's the reason why it's here.
For clarity, is that the email that you sent, or did you change any of that this morning, from this morning?
I just changed, it said from Hopewell Point Road, I did it to the Carry, which is what my understanding is, that there is some drainage in the other space. And then Brad wants to add the language regarding if there's any grants, federal money, et cetera, that language.
So it would say Jockey Cove side of Forest Road to, excuse me, Cary Road?
To the Carry, am I correct? The wording is to the Carry. It's a piece of land that comes down.
Okay, just want to make sure I capture it, thank you.
Yeah,
And there's
okay.
136,500 in the water resources
We need to get
non-capital.
a counting
I
of
think we
that.
hold this, I think there is that amount.
Right,
so-
that's how much is in there, but in 2022, you committed 23,000 for Russ Pond, and then
Okay.
you've committed more, you've committed money from there that hasn't been taken out. So
Okay.
you can't always take the balance that's in there.
Okay.
We'll get an accounting of it.
Yeah, because the one, that figure I got was one that you had given me in December, and then the 40,000 had to come out, but we need to,
Right, and that's what I'm going to make sure all four pieces are or as many pieces as you've committed to are coming out of that number.
perfect.
So then I'd like to hold on this article for water resources non-capital reserve funding, because depending on how much is in that account, I would like to reduce this from 50,000 to 30,000 to offset the 20,000 that's coming up with this other warrant article that came in just now recently. Because I think it would be good to do this repair, but to use the money from the non-capital reserve fund and exchange funds.
Yeah, I think we'd already agreed to put a hold on this one anyway, to revisit it once we got the actual numbers from Casey, to know exactly what we do have
Yeah, I
and what's
think-
committed.
Yeah, I think that's important that we
Yep.
get that, and then that'll, we
Agreed.
could look at what we do from there.
Okay, so the next article would be the Abenaki Ski Area Capital Reserve Fund, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be added to the existing Abenaki Reserve Fund, which is under the custody of the trustee of trust funds with selectmen designated as agents to expend. Estimated tax rate impact for 2024, 1 cent per thousand of assessed valuation. 2023 anticipated capital reserve fund balance at the end of the year will be $79,000. And this is level with last year.
I have.
Somebody like to move this one forward on the warrant?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Luke, seconded by Brian, to move this onto the warrant. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Somebody like to make a motion to?
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Motion by Luke, seconded by Dave, to recommend. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
And I'm assuming on this we'll also get a spreadsheet, and because my understanding is what we need to accumulate for a groomer.
Correct. Tree removal replacement expendable trust fund, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be placed in the existing tree removal and replacement expendable trust fund, which is under the custody of the trustee of trust funds with selectmen designated as agents to expend. Estimated tax rate impact for 2024 is 1 cent per thousand of assessed valuation. 2023 anticipated capital reserve fund balance, $36,000. In speaking with Steve Randall, anticipated work in 2024 would be Middleton Road and some of our other side roads, and as well, there would most likely be some planting to take place in a couple of the parks around town, which we had to remove some trees this year.
Motion to move forward to the warrant.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Luke to move this one forward. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And motion to recommend by anybody?
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Luke to recommend. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Municipal electric bucket truck replacement, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $400,000 for the purpose of replacing the 2014 Municipal Electric Department ME3 bucket truck and associated equipment. The amount of $400,000 shall be funded from the Electric Enterprise Fund. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 32.7, Roman numeral 6, and shall lapse on December 31, 2025, or upon completion of the project, whichever occurs first. This project shall be paid for by the Electric Enterprise and will not result in any increase in the tax rate. Estimated tax rate impact for 2024 is 0 cents per thousand of assessed valuation.
I'll move it to the warrant.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Brian to move this to the warrant. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I'll move to recommend this warrant article.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Brian to recommend. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, so the next item is seasonal water lines on McCarthyana Drive and Museum Shores. Yesterday, we had core borings. Those core borings came back. I believe 6 of the 12 had ledge at 2.5 to 3 feet. Based on that information, Stantec, in conjunction with Steve Randall, are recommending we remove it. Any questions that you have on this can be addressed to Steve, but we're recommending that we pull it from the warrant.
I'll move that we pull it from the warrant.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Brian to pull this one from the warrant. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Maple and Highland Terrace water main installation, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $200,000 for the purpose of installing 800 feet of new 8-inch water line between Maplewood and Highland Terrace. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 32.7, Roman numeral 6, and shall lapse on December 31, 2025, or upon completion of the project, whichever occurs first. This project shall be paid by the Water Enterprise Fund and will not result in any increase in the tax rate. Estimated tax rate impact for 2024 is 0 cents per thousand assessed valuation. Core borings came back good at that location. We're able to bury this line, and as you can see by the document provided to you this evening from Underwood Engineering, this falls within the purview of the revenues anticipated to get this project done in 2024.
I'll move to add it to the warrant.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Brian to move this to the warrant. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll move to recommend.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Brian to recommend. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Wastewater treatment plant capital reserve funding, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $200,000 to be added to the existing wastewater treatment capital reserve fund, which is under the custody of the trustee of trust fund, with selectmen designated as agents to expend this capital reserve fund. Appropriation comes from taxation. Estimated tax rate impact 2024, 8 cents per thousand assessed valuation. I have a list of what the contractor put together for requests, the total at $250,000. If the board so inclines, I did have a conversation with them, we could back this down to $175 this year, knowing where we're at. That would give them the funds to be able to do some electric upgrades, aeration blower valves, phase 1 of the catwalk replacement at the retention pond, spray irrigation improvements, and RIB pump repairs.
I'd like to make a motion that we move this to 175,000.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Brian to move this one down to 175,000. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Move to recommend.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Luke to recommend this one. Any other discussion?
Don't we need to move it to the warrant and then to recommend it?
We just moved it to Warren, didn't we?
Yeah.
No, we moved it down.
Oh,
yeah.
I apologize. Yep.
I'll first make the motion to move it to the warrant.
Second.
A motion by Linda, seconded by Brian to move it to the warrant. Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And
Opposed?
then move to recommend.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Luke to recommend this article. And all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Yeah, we got through that one.
South Main Street
After a
engineering,
while, it kind of goes, "Ooh."
South Main Street, Center Street to Smith River Bridge, sewer engineering, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $200,000 for the purpose of engineering a replacement sewer line from South Main Street at Pickering Corner to the Smith River Bridge. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 32-7, Roman numeral 6, and shall lapse on December 31, 2025, or upon completion of the project, whichever occurs first. Estimated tax rate impact for 2024 is 8 cents per thousand of assessed valuation. This will give us the ability to move up on the state grant funding to be able to fund this project, which I believe we're estimating in the $4 million range in 2025 to 2026. So this is in alignment with the previously proposed Complete Streets project, which our engineers said we can't do water, sewer, and stormwater all in one year. We need to break this out. So this kind of gets the ball rolling for that. Steve's here to be able to answer any questions you have for this.
I have a question. When are we going to have to put up the money for Route 28? I want to make sure this is out, because I think the Route 28 is the next one, and it's hard to get any answers. Tavis?
26 for 27 construction. That's their working.
So 26, when do we need we have to, in 2025, appropriate the money, or 2026? Because they've got a different calendar year than we have.
I believe it's 26 we have to appropriate the money for 27 construction. And for that, we would be 20, so we would need to appropriate the money for the sewer in 25. So we're a year ahead on the sewer than we are from 28. We're 1 year ahead.
That's correct. Okay, because when we asked the last time, because this thing just keeps on rolling on down the line, they said we needed to appropriate it the year before, so.
Well, in the last year since I've been here, it has gone from a 26 construction to a 27.
Okay, so it's going down one more, okay.
That's just keeps getting pushed.
All right, so then this would be.
It's 1 year sooner.
Okay, so this will be all right. Okay.
Any other questions? Motion to move it to the warrant?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Luke, seconded by Dave to move this one to the warrant. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Anybody want a motion to recommend?
So
Motion
moved.
to recommend.
Second.
Dave, motion, was it Brian seconded?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, Parks and Recreation tractor purchase. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 for the purpose of purchasing a new Parks and Recreation tractor with attachments. Estimated tax rate impact for 2024 is 4 cents per thousand of assessed valuation. Christine's provided me with a list of items that they would utilize this for. In general, the department having its own tractor will help efficiency and safety of their staff, capable of handling their own issues as opposed to having to wait to rent equipment, allows to load trucks and materials without having to coordinate with the highway department. Anticipated equipment come with it for a York rake, for spring and fall cleanup, weekly beach maintenance, washout repairs, and Albee Beach Road repairs. For the parks, spring cleanup, walkway stone dust work, gravel, loam, and baseball field maintenance, cemeteries, spring cleanup, general maintenance, and around Pop Whalen, they only have one plow vehicle to take care of the parking lot and the general area, so this would assist with that for snow removal, keep snowbanks pushed back, and assist with deliveries as a forklift. Christine's here to be able to answer questions that you may have relative to this project.
This is a tough one for me, just because of the situation we're in. I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, would it be possible to do about half, 50 or 55, in a reserve fund this year, change the warrant article, and then do another one next year to appropriate the rest, and she waits 1 year more to get a tractor? It's just a thought. I know they need it. It's just a matter of money.
I'm with Brian on this one. I would go to half and half. With where we are, I'm real concerned about the operating budget. It isn't coming down at all. There's a limit on what people can afford. So.
Can we hold off on it and maybe visit that?
Do it in a kind of a 51, or, you can get the vote. I'm going to vote no if it's at the 100.
They need a piece of equipment. They've outlined the reason they need it. I think Christine is the best person to be able to give you the answers that you're asking for about it. Christine?
I mean,
I wish we had a tractor ferry that could just put it right down.
That would be nice. I mean, it is a need, not necessarily a want. It's long overdue for our department. We've been making do. I hear what you're saying, and I understand the budget. Just know that it puts us in a tough spot to figure out what we're doing in the meantime. We're hearing that highway doesn't have stuff for us to borrow. It's going to require us to lease something, rent something, and my budget's pretty tight. I didn't put all this money in to be renting equipment. So it just puts us in a bad situation if we have an emergency need that we need to, for example, remove the snow. We'll have to figure that out. So.
Do you have a snow blower?
We do have a snow blower, but what's coming off of that building is bigger than a snow blower. So that's the real issue there.
It packs hard, too, when it lands.
I'm sorry?
It packs hard when it lands, too,
Yes.
so.
Yeah, and it's in the middle of the parking lot, so it's kind of difficult to just move it quickly. So.
Now, when we've needed other vehicles the last couple of years, in the middle of the year, we've found money in accounts when necessary. If we appropriated half of this with a warrant article, what are the chances that there may be money sometime during the year to?
I think we cut that budget as hard as we could. So I think, this is coming back to the fact that, do we want to recommend it, put it out, with a chance that people can come in and shoot down a whole lot?
Yeah.
I'd be willing to try the 50, put, 50 in a capital reserve and go 50 another year, but I'm not comfortable going for the full 100 this year, just where we are.
What's everybody else think?
Yeah.
I'd almost think if we put this one on hold to, I don't know if we want to think about it, research it a little bit more. I know Christine's given us a lot of information tonight that we've seen here on the need for it to justify it. I have no doubt they do need it, but I do agree. I think the 100,000 is going to be a tough sell right now in the market that we're facing with the warrants and with the voters here. So I'd probably lean more towards doing a 50-50, each year, and get it to her next year. I think we'd have a better shot at getting this piece of equipment to the Parks and Rec for them to use.
Yeah, I guess that, to me, this is more of a sit and duck. If you were there and you wanted to, vote no on something, this would be an easier one to vote no on than some of the other ones. So it's just where I am.
I can tell you, over the years, it's never a good year
It's true.
for anything.
Yeah.
I don't care what the budgets are. We can say that all you want, but if she needs a piece of equipment and she's been doing without it for all these years, I think it's time we give her the appropriation and give her what she needs to work with.
Then just-
The building up there and where that snow is falling, and the amount of use that mountain and that rink gets, we need to take care of the snow. And if Steve's out plowing snow, he's not gonna get there till they'll have to close some of the stuff down because they can't move it. I'm not in favor of splitting it. I think she needs it this year. That's my feeling.
Luke, last man
It's
standing.
never a good year for any of
I
this
was,
stuff.
I was the one that kind of pushed it, so I'm still in favor of it. You know, it's too, because, you know, Parks and Rec a lot of the times gets kind of the hand-me-downs, and
Yeah.
so, and I know that when, you know, when the Zamboni needs to come out of the doorway, not only is there going to be snow in the front of it, but I mean, it's so close to the snow is so close to, when you're driving that, your head is so close to the top of that door, which is so close to the snow that comes off that roof. Even a little bit of snow on that packed down road right there is gonna, they need it. It is a tough year. It's a very tough, it's gonna be a very tough couple of years probably, but, yeah, I support it still.
I'd wait for somebody to make a motion here, I guess.
I'll make a motion to move it forward.
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion on the floor and a second to move this one forward onto the warrant. Any other discussion? This is going to be a tough one. Because I'm kind of, riding the fence here, and I,
Me too. I'd love them to have a tractor, but it's, it's just what it is.
Is there any other discussion? All right, all in favor of moving this to the warrant?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Again, all those against? Okay, it's 3-2. So it'll move forward to the warrant. Now we'll need a motion on
Motion to
recommending.
recommend.
Second.
Motion by Luke, seconded by Dave to recommend this warrant article. Any other discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 3-2, the vote on that, to match the moving it to the warrant.
Okay. Next one, used ambulance purchase, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $110,000 for the purpose of purchasing a used ambulance to be operated by Wolfeboro Fire Rescue as a licensed transport ambulance in the state of New Hampshire. The sum of $80,000 shall be utilized for purchasing the vehicle. The sum of $20,000 shall be used for upfit, including two-way radio, lettering, Knox box, and any other mechanical repairs. The sum of $10,000 shall be used for fuel and other expendables required to license said ambulance in the state of New Hampshire. Further, to authorize the Board of Selectmen to accept monies as they become available from the federal, state government, or through donations, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to take any other action or pass any other vote related thereto, and authorize the town manager to sign any related documents. Estimated tax rate impact for 2024, 5 cents per thousand of assessed valuation, and the chief has provided a breakdown of what those costs would look like based on your recommendation. As you can see on that list, there's an asterisk beside some of those items. Those would be annual expenses going forward to the tune of just shy of $16,000. Chief's here to answer any questions that you may have relative to this warrant article.
Linda?
Yeah, I want to thank the chief. That does give me the issues around having something in the budget to use it. I still have some questions, and maybe you can answer. Is this ambulance going to be a training tool? Is it going to be a backup, a third ambulance going out? How often do you anticipate or estimate? I know you're guessing. Is it going to be used a week? My understanding is that there is no designated staff for it, that it'll be whoever's there to staff it?
There's a lot in that question.
Yes, because you've said different things, and I'm
Sure.
kind of trying to...
The idea, I think, behind this project is, should we be successful and able to purchase it sometime after town meeting, will allow us to have time to bring it up to standard in terms of getting it licensed for Wolfeboro, for the state, and so forth. Once we get to that point, our intent would be to, in some degree, like you say, use it as a training tool to get us comfortable, to get us into practice with reports needed for billing and things like that, and like the billing end of this, we don't do today. The care end of it, we do perform today, but there is obviously a difference to actually loading the patient and being responsible for the transport. The intent would be to progress through the year and get to the point where we are in a position to, based on any proposals that we receive or RFPs that go out for the years 2025 and on, to be in a position to either be the second ambulance, the backup, or some combination thereof. Some conversations we've had with representatives from Stewart's, as we move through 2024, we haven't seen the language yet, but we've had conversation around the idea of having language in the contract for more or less status quo for next year that would allow us, with a certain amount of notice, to approach them and say, I don't want to throw out a date because I don't want to commit anybody to it, but for the sake of discussion, if we felt we were ready on November 1st of next year to be essentially a third capacity, we would be able to respond, perform a transport, and not be in violation of a contract with another agency, if you follow me. They are willing to pursue language along those lines. It obviously would be with some warning and so forth, and we would, in concurrence with the town manager, have to be in a position to say we're ready to take this on. But at the end, it tees us up to be able to have different options for 2025 in terms of what we enter into with contracts with a private vendor, whether it's for one ambulance, for two ambulances, for some combination thereof. Presumably, we'd be looking at something similar to what we had discussed earlier this year, with warrant articles in 2025 for the staff needed to take it over in a two-ambulance capacity, a warrant article for a purchase or a lease purchase of a new ambulance to get on a rotation and that sort of thing.
So I would be, Jim, have we got information from Stewart's if they would do a one ambulance contract for us in, say, 25, 26, something?
Myself and Justin are playing email tag. I missed him last week. He's out of the area this week. So we're trying to touch base.
Because that's a big piece for me.
I had a conversation with him last week.
Okay.
I hesitate to speak for anybody else, but he made it very clear that they're not leaving town. They're willing to help us with this. I think it's a matter of what the language is going to look like. Again, I can't commit, obviously, Stewart's to anything, but they are certainly willing to, have given every indication they're willing to work with us to move this down the road.
So in this, we would need, I'm assuming that we're going to, if we use the ambulance, we're going to bill. And how are we going to do that? Is that something we're going to try to be able to do through Stewart's if we're using it? Or are we while our training, it's a free ride?
That's a possibility. We have had contact with a number of billing agencies unless and until we're prepared to put out some sort of RFP. It's been just that, contact. There are a number of agencies who specialize in this sort of thing. I think it would be our recommendation that we do put out an RFP and review them and sign a contract with whatever organization, frankly, is in our best interest.
For 2024. I'm looking at this, we're purchasing this in 2024, and I'm looking at it as your training tool or the backup, a third ambulance, and that we will be giving some rides, and that we're going to, and you're saying it's either we're going to find a way to bill for it or we're going to give free rides in order to get the training.
Well, I don't know that we want to be in a position of quote-unquote a free ride. It is certainly possible on fairly short notice to be able to affiliate with an organization that specializes in ambulance billing. If we move forward with this, I think that would be our intent, to have a contractor in place. Generally speaking, it wouldn't be a, quote, fee from the town to a vendor. They would take a percentage of the revenue. So it wouldn't necessarily be a, quote, expense to the town.
I would be very comfortable with this if I knew that starting in 2024, our ambulance contract went from X down to Y, and knew that that difference, that differential, covered the purchase of the ambulance going forward. Then I would be very, very, very comfortable with it.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying if we had a contract with our incumbent provider for 2 ambulances from January 1 through July 1, or through June 30th, for 2 ambulances, and then from July 1 forward for 1 ambulance, if the chief can accommodate that, and the savings justify the purchase of the ambulance?
Savings will probably cover the 110, and it might cover other expenses that you might not.
But with all due respect, we haven't staffed it.
Yeah, that's where I am with you.
That was my question.
The
That's why I
idea
said
behind
that.
being, quote, the third ambulance is that we wouldn't have to rely on it if, for whatever reason, we weren't able to get it out the door. We'd still be at status quo. The intent would be, again, to implement some policies to allow that to happen, but that soon into this, I'm not sure at that point we're ready to do that in 2024, if only because we've backed off of the proposals that would have staffed it, and we're not, at this point, contemplating those.
Have we
Okay,
ever seen?
well, Dave's waiting for a question here to ask here, so give Dave a chance.
Patiently waiting.
Well, I don't, buying an ambulance, we need staff. How many people in your department now can staff and go on an ambulance call?
You mean are certified to do that today?
Correct.
Out of 21, 19.
That many.
And I'm including Reverend Lindsay, who is our chaplain, is not a responder.
They're all capable EMS
Yes.
certified
Yes.
to be in an ambulance.
Now, obviously, they come with a range of experience, but we have the certification.
Okay?
The reason I'm asking it is to get clarity. I don't have any, because we're going to get those questions, and I want to make sure I get a full understanding if this is a third ambulance, a training tool, generally the parameters of how you, as a fire chief, see you using it, and that we're consistent on what it is.
Sure.
And that's why I'm asking you the questions. You got me the money for the fuel and stuff, and now I'm looking, can you define better for me exactly your use? And I'd be willing to kind of put this off a week and get you to be able to define it better for
We can
us.
certainly flesh it out in memo form, if that would be helpful. I think if we had to categorize it, under the current circumstances, budget-wise and so forth, I think it would be accurate to say it would be a training tool for
Okay.
2024.
Okay.
I think I can feel comfortable with that.
Okay.
Because I don't want to put us in a position where we would literally be the second ambulance, bar none, without having some accommodation to staff it at that level. As the, quote, third or training tool, we have a lot more flexibility in how we get there. But what it would do was, it would be to tee us up for 2025 in some capacity to be determined.
Yeah.
I will tell you that I've spent a fair amount of time this summer. We have initiated the accounts we need with Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, where as far as we can go without having a VIN number for a transport vehicle and a billing agency. So that would be relatively quick at that point. That would get us to the point where once we would start to bill, we are eligible, to be reimbursed by Medicare and Medicaid and those sort of things.
So a metric I would love to see, and I don't know if it's possible, is how often do Stewart's have one ambulance working in our community? How often do they have two ambulances in our community? And is there ever a situation where a third one needs to come in to our
I
community?
can't give you a number off the top of my head, but I can tell you that's relatively routine.
So you can
Calling for a third ambulance is, I'm going to say, a dozen to 20 times a year.
a dozen to 20.
Typically, it would be a motor vehicle accident or something where multiple patients were involved.
Okay.
It is not unusual for us to have concurrent calls with both ambulances fulfilling their contractual duty at any one time.
It's hard. I know it's a hard thing, and I don't know if you can find it, but how often is one ambulance out? Is there only one ambulance out 75% of the time, and then two ambulances out for the other? Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I think I do.
I'm
What you're
wondering-
asking is what would concurrent calls.
Yeah. How often, if and when you become the second ambulance, I'm wondering how many times you're going to be needed. If we have 100 calls, are you going to have to go out on 20 of them? Do you know what I mean? 20 concurrent calls, or
we can perhaps flesh this out offline, but my question would be, are you asking how many times we would transport or how many times we would respond? It's not every response results in a transport.
correct? I would say respond, because I'm looking at your manpower, and I'm seeing you being a second ambulance. I want to know how much it's going to eat into your manpower as it sits now, and where we determine how many additional officers you need, firefighters you need to staff that.
And I think that data in general is available because we spent a serious amount of time creating those proposals. I think what we would need to do would be to look at the numbers and in conjunction with the manager, determine, okay, if we were to be the, quote, second ambulance, what would we propose in terms of staff to be able to do that?
How much would it drain you? Basically, how much would it pull away from your current staff, being the second ambulance? Now, it's going to change when you start doing two full-service ambulances, and then you will have to increase staff more. But that would be a metric that if I could see it, it would be very helpful.
I think we kind of need to put this one on hold. I think we got some more information we'd all like to see.
Yeah, and I really would like him to give us a memo and write out a description of the operation, what you were going to bill, you'll get, so that we have a very good picture that we can be consistent on, that's what this is going to be. So I agree with you. I would like it.
I guess one more question.
Luke,
To follow up with something Brian said. When you were the second ambulance, would you be requiring more staff at that point, or would you be using, that's kind of what you were getting at.
Correct.
I don't think you actually asked that question completely. When you became the second ambulance, would you then be requesting staff for that ambulance, or would you be, like Brian said, using the current staff and?
I suspect we would, but obviously at a lesser level than some of the proposals that we've seen to this point, because we wouldn't be in a position to have to staff two at the same time.
Okay.
But, so you're saying with what the staff you have now, you could staff one ambulance? That's what they're saying, that's what they're asking you.
Not as number one ambulance, but number two. Next year, let's say 2025, you're now number two. You're the second ambulance in Wolfeboro. Stewart's is number one, Wolfeboro Fire Rescue is number two. I think what Brian was getting at is you would use your current staffing, and I'm asking the question, would you be using only your current staffing, or would you be asking for more people?
I think we'd have to do some analysis, but I
Okay.
suspect we would be asking for some additional staffing.
Okay.
Again, perhaps not at the level we had earlier conversations about, because we wouldn't be contemplating both.
So I'm assuming if we send out, let's say it's a car accident, we send out which goes now, an ambulance and a fire truck.
Correct.
So we'd have to have 4 staff on in order to be the second ambulance and respond as we're responding now in the fire department.
Generally, yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
A lot of moving parts.
Oh, that's why it's hard, and you try to analyze, okay.
Yeah.
But if this happened and that happened, you're right. There are a lot of moving
Yeah.
parts, and it all
I'd just like
kind of fits in.
Yeah, that's why I'd like to, if possible, I'd like to see the numbers so that we know what kind of drain having you running the second ambulance, what kind of drain is it going to put on your manpower? How much staff do you think you would have to add to it in 2025, end of 2024? Maybe you guys will be all ready to go, like you said, in November of 2024. Then maybe stewards can, who knows? But by 2025.
Again, I'm not sure we'd be able to do that as the designated, quote, second ambulance in 2024, because we're not asking for
And that's
help
why-
to do that.
Yeah, that's why I'm looking for
That's
the
why, I mean,
definition
where we call it
2000.
training, it's a little more fluid
Yes.
and gives us more flexibility to not put anybody at risk and still accomplish the goal.
Right, right. So there's that, what we're looking at, and then you want to know what happens if we started in July of 2024.
And I got
Or-
one more very unreasonable question.
I'm sure.
Would they take 2 payments for the ambulance, one this year, one next year, but let you use it as a training vehicle in between?
I'm not,
It's not like their ambulances are flying off the shelves. They've been there for a while.
Brian, you gonna rent me your car for 6 months? For
I'm going to
nothing?
put my name on it, though.
For nothing?
Luke rents trailers.
I mean, that's not a reasonable ask.
Yeah.
It's just not.
I mean, we
I would
have-
be more inclined to reach out to our incumbent provider and say, can we rent an ambulance from you for $1 for X amount of time? I don't think that's a reasonable idea to go into a payment plan for a used vehicle.
So I think Chief has a good idea of some of the information we're looking for and stuff, and I think we were kind of a consensus, we'll put this one on hold to get a little more information and then move forward from there.
Sure.
Okay, you got your information, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Historic Society lease, just be tabled, I'm still waiting on the square footage. Sewer pump station, where is,
Whoa.
Yep.
Don't we have to put an amount in there? Aren't we going to charge them something?
so that's why I have terms and conditions of said lease. If
Oh,
that's
because I
the-
don't have those slides. Yes, I do, that one.
If that's the case, then we need to sit down and do the negotiation on the lease
Well,
now.
I mean, we could put $1. I mean, I don't think, if we're going to have, I just think that if you're going to put out a warrant article and we're asking them for a lease, all the other leases, you have some kind of money. If we're talking about $1, what did they pay us now? We pay Brewster $1 for leasing Brewster Beach.
Okay.
That's what I'm looking for. I think there should be something. We're not going to lease them this and we're not, unless I'm wrong, we haven't talked about getting a bunch of revenue for it.
So, okay, I'll look at that.
What's the tax impact for $1?
Sewer pump station reauthorization, whereas the Mill Street Sewer Pump Station has an anticipated 400-day build time, and the Laner Street Sewer Pump Station has an anticipated 300-day build time. Will the town vote to reauthorize warrant Article 17 of the 2023 warrant, which states to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum $648,000 for the purpose of paying for increased costs of engineering, equipment, construction, and inspections of the Laner and Mill Street sewer pump stations. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 32.7, Roman numeral 6, and shall lapse on December 31, 2024, upon completion of the project, whichever occurs first. This will be paid from state aid grant in the amount of $648,000 over the next 5 years from the RIB project, which will result in no tax rate impact. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 32.7.6 and shall lapse on December 31, 2025, or upon completion of the project, whichever occurs first. Estimated tax rate impact, 0 per thousand of assessed valuation for 2024. This is just reauthorizing those monies that were appropriated based on the build times that we're receiving for these two projects. We're not going to have them done by the end of 2024 if we run into any issues.
I move to add it to the warrant.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Luke to move this to the warrant. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
I move to recommend.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Brian to recommend. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
And then we have the Jockey Cove one that we will update, and that is the end of the warrant articles. So the question is, do you want to schedule another time next week, or do you want to shoot for your, 14th meeting? 14th. Is that correct? Hold on, let me get my calendar up.
Today, the
Today's the 6th.
20th.
So the next meeting would be the 20th. We have 2 budget committee meetings next week. The budget committee is actually supposed to start reviewing warrant articles on the 14th, according to their schedule.
Well, they just, when I wrote Leanne asking her what they were going to do with the material they were supposed to do on the 5th, she was saying she was moving it to the 14th.
Okay.
I don't know that for a fact. I haven't got anything, but that's when I talked to her about it. I was trying to figure out.
I mean, we could certainly cover the rest of these on the 20th. They have a meeting scheduled for the 28th where whatever, they'll have the information. It's just your votes.
Yep.
Or we can give them the ones we're done.
Yep. Okay, so the only, Casey, does that create a timing issue with DRA at all? No. Okay.
20th, okay.
So we'll go with the 20th. That's it.
We'll start on that, Jim. Next, discussion on the trash ordinance. Revisit the amendment.
I was asked to put this on the agenda. I believe Brian wants to speak to it.
Yeah, I've been contacted by a couple of citizens who have been concerned and said, do I call the town, do I call the police department? Who do I speak to if trash cans are on the roadway, are not picked up, are there overnight? We don't specify in our ordinance who actually enforces it, and we don't have any fines or warnings or anything listed in the ordinance either, so I didn't know if the board would like to update this in some way, if anybody had any suggestions.
I guess maybe a question I would have, I don't know if the captain can answer it or not, would be if somebody's found in violation of this, as far as, fines or anything like that, would that fall under, being a, I don't know if public nuisance is the right word, but, something along those lines of, or littering, or is there something in your,
Town ordinance?
in the ordinances
Is
that you
there?
could, put at this
Just
to
the
enforce it?
ordinance that you have in front of you.
Yep.
So you would have to add a section where they fine them out.
Okay.
And I've talked to some communities, and some use their code enforcement officer, some use their health inspector, some use their DPW.
Well, could we just treat it as littering?
I like the code enforcement officer. That was nice. I like.
Well, it makes it difficult on the weekends.
Yeah, my feeling is that sorry.
Yeah, I know.
It should be, if we're going to have the agency to enforce, that would be the police department, and that you do a warning, and then you do $10 every repeated, or then you could pick it up or something. But I think we,
Well, I think
I
if you
know
put-
that I've got one chronic on
Well, I think
Pleasant
if you
Valley
put a
Road.
fine there, it's always discretion of the law enforcement officer.
Okay, good.
So that's the easy way to do it.
I've had a couple of people complain to me about Forest Road, about Old Lakeview Terrace, about Pleasant Valley Road. It's the minute we put this in place, all of a sudden, everybody is like,
Yeah, the only, to be honest with you, the only way that we would see this on a daily basis is a phone call, really. I mean, this would be hard for our officers to catch this every day because, I mean, we would have to be everywhere.
well,
I
and
mean,
you
the
don't
ones on
know.
Pleasant Valley Road have been out there laying on their side for
Yeah, I mean,
probably
if it's on
5
the-
weeks now, but,
Yeah, So,
And if there's, and you don't know how many days or day or
Nope.
a week or whatever a can's been there because you don't know.
no, we would have to really do an investigation on it.
I think we'd have to,
Which is, that's a lot of work for.
So in other words, what we're really talking about is somebody, neighbor's going to have to call you.
Yeah.
Correct.
it'd have to be based on,
That's the reality of
it'd
it.
be based on a
That's the
complaint.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense anyways.
Or all the citizens call me.
Well, then you can be the complaint department.
Yeah, you just pass it on.
There you go.
Pass it on to the captain.
So do we want to, would we need to schedule a public hearing to be able to put fines on a policy like this?
I think we would, but I would
Yeah.
think we would want to figure out what those are
Right.
before we schedule a public hearing. I think Tavis may have some other info.
Yeah.
No, planning and zoning will not be enforcing this.
Oh.
So I think it still falls to the boys in blue. I'm going to point you to the end of section 100-5, which is the noise ordinance. Noise ordinance is section 100. At the end of the noise ordinance, it says enforcement, violations and penalties. Each violation of this section shall be subject to a fine of $100 for the first violation during any 12-month period, a fine of $250 for the second violation, and from $500 to $1,000 for a third or any subsequent violation. Any law enforcement officer may issue a municipal complaint ticket for each offense.
Yeah, I think
I'm not suggesting 100, 250, 300, or 500. But if the board was interested, I could create what would become section 112-4D, so the next line down, with similar language to the noise ordinance. If I were able to get some guidance from you folks as to the first one is a written warning, so at least it's documented, then maybe it's 25, 50.
Come up with a number
I
system.
think
on
we
it.
did that also for jumping off the Wittenneck Bridge.
Yes.
That's another one that we did that certain amount, I think a warning, then, on down the line.
So when I found out this was going to be on tonight, which was, as I was sitting here tonight, I started going through the New Hampshire criminal statute, which is why I was able to very quickly say to Luke, no, it's not littering.
Yeah.
Because you don't even
Yes.
want to open that can, pardon the
Yeah.
pun.
Got it. We got it.
Yep.
I would say a warning and maybe.
Did you see anything for dollar values when you were looking, or?
No, when you start searching, when you start blindly searching statutes, you very quickly get into, is it a misdemeanor? Is it a felony? I really don't think you want to go that route.
No.
Maybe we just do 3, like warning.
$5, $10, and then it's up to the discretion of the
Yeah.
officer. If we've got somebody who's chronic, that's the ones that,
Correct.
we need to do,
As everything, the officer will take that into account. And
You can
it'll be the
confiscate their
discretion of them,
barrels.
because at the end of the day, they're the ones
Great
going to
idea.
court.
Then we'll put special stuff.
So,
I'm fine with that.
yeah.
Yep.
Sometimes it just takes a reminder.
get their barrel.
They're
Yeah.
gonna-
Yeah,
they're gonna
education is
come.
good.
So we can come back to the board with a draft on the 20th, and you guys can consider whether or not you like that, you want some adjustments made to it, and if we schedule a public hearing after the beginning of the year to adopt it.
Yep, great,
Yeah.
sounds good.
That sounds
Great.
great.
Thank you.
Takes care of that.
Okay. Next on the agenda is an update on the Abenaki Bike Trail and the New Hampshire DES site visit.
So I got a couple things that I can run by you in advance. I had a meeting with Mr. Dow today. He would like to respectfully request permission to leave the bridge in place. He has blocked it off. He's telling me that it cannot be accessed, and technically the bike trails are closed for the season now. It is remotely located. The reason is he knows that the bridge needs to come down. He knows it needs to be removed. He has flagged out what his proposed plan is going forward, and there is, they would like to build a bridge structure across the ground so that they can navigate over some of their wet area. I asked him if they've had a conversation with the environmental engineer that's part of their group. He said he would do that and provide us with some information. I said, well, okay, that's fine. And then he started discussing a master plan of additional trails that they would like to build out up at that location, to which I said, we need to consider holding a meeting with the Board of Selectmen so you guys can deliver to the Board of Selectmen what your complete vision is for additional trails up there, because the trails that I was hearing about, it was the first time for me. He agreed that coming up with a master plan isn't a problem. They can do that, and he'd like to be able to meet with the board early in January so that we can move this forward. I did tell him that I didn't know what the board would do relative to the bridge. If they instruct me to remove the bridge, I will have the bridge removed, but we will try to do it in a manner that we would bundle the lumber up and put it off to the side so that if the bridge across the wetland area was approved, or the wet area, I shouldn't say wetland because I don't know if that's in fact true or not, that they could potentially use that or have to have it removed. I know Brian's got some other things that he wants to speak to on regards to the spray fields, but that's what I have for information for you based on the bridge and the previous request for it to be removed.
So I have a laundry list. My laundry list would be, we open up the section of spray fields that we shut down, so we shut it down for a bike group, and then we shut it down for a hang gliding group, and then we shut it down for a frisbee group, and we're going to keep shutting down sections for individual groups because they need to use our spray field property. So I would, one, want to open up all our spray field back to the way it was before this happened. It shouldn't be shut down because of them. Two, we need the mapping done first. We need kiosks in place. DES has said that. Three, we need to have our own staff or hire somebody to flag everything that's 100 feet away from that spray field area to see what other trails, if any, are encroaching, because DES said that we need to do that, especially when the virologist that was at that meeting said, bacteria is one thing. There's streams, there's ponds, and there's bacteria in those too. But do you realize that every virus that goes through our wastewater treatment facility comes out in those spray fields? Everything that comes from Huggins Hospital, from nursing homes, from restaurants, from all the summer visitors that come up here and inhabit our community, any virus, whether it be viral pneumonia or any of them, those end up in that water. Our treatment system does not kill those. That was the virologist from DES. So that's what we have to make sure people are not coming in contact with. So open up our spray fields the way they're supposed to be, flag off everything that is within the 100-foot buffer zone. I think the bridge should be removed first, and if we're going to have somebody look at a wetland issue up there, I think it's a conflict of interest to have somebody that's part of the Single Track Alliance also watching the hen house. I think that they need to hire somebody else that we approve to do any wetland flagging or any environmental work out there. That's just my opinion. So I would like to see those things done before we have any more discussions on more trails. Because we just keep kicking the can down the road, and they keep saying, well, we're going to get maps. There's no maps. We're going to get a kiosk. No kiosk. The signs won't be up until the spring. We haven't done any of the measurements. The bridge is still there. Let's get everything done and put to bed before we start going forward with a new set of plans for more trails and other things.
I will agree with Brian. I was there. They were concerned about the health risk, and it's a sentence right in this letter they sent to us. There is a public health risk to walkers and bikers encountering the spray, particularly on windy days. And they were saying this isn't a wooden area, that it's open and they can come in contact with it. I agree with Brian. I want the map. We've talked about this map for a long period of time. I don't want to look at any more trails until we have what we have up there marked in place, and I'd like to know, get a timeline on when the map is going to be created and by whom. I'm not sure who's supposed to do it. Are we to do it? A single track? I thought we were going to try to get a group of us together to get that map. We need to identify the trails that are cross-country ski trails that need to be closed to the bikers and mark them as such. And I think we as a Board of Selectmen, when we get into the spring, should go up there and tour and look at what's going on. We can drive some of you up. I think it's important for us to really look at how much we're using this. In terms of the bridge, we voted to remove the bridge, so I think the bridge should be removed. In terms of the spray fields, when they were going to finish that trail that comes up by the ski slopes, this board voted to close down those sections, those two lines of the spray field. I'd be hesitant to all of a sudden open them back up and close down the trail.
I don't know if it was a unanimous vote, though.
Brian, that's what we did. So, we can disagree on that. So that's where I stand on it. I think we do need to get control on what's going on up there.
Yep.
Anybody else?
Absolutely.
So how do we say no to the next group that comes up and says, shut down 2 more lines for us?
We voted on it.
Right, that's the reason. We
So we
voted.
voted, well, you shut down a line for them, so shut down 2 lines for us. And then let's shut down these 3 lines for us also, and then let's just close the whole thing down.
If you get the maps, get the kiosks, get the signage, and you get the bridge removed, and you get the potentially no more trails,
That's what I think.
would you be happy with leaving the existing trails there, or would you want more?
I don't know. I know that I'm concerned about the health and safety of the people that are up there, and that any group we work with, like the cross-country ski organization, that they dot their I's, they cross their T's, they do what they're going to say they're going to do when they say they're going to do it. They come to approval before they work. They do things the right way, and we need every group in town to do the same thing. There's no reason why everybody can't participate in our recreation, in developing our town, and do it in an equal fashion.
I have to say, I think I agree with most of what's been said here. We need to get, 2 things here, 2 or 3 things. We need to get the signage up that we've talked about, the 100-foot, buffer, whatever you want to call it there. We did vote to have that bridge removed. I think we should, that's a vote we had, needs to get done. And, not allow any more trails up through there, any more construction until these things are done. The map, that's one thing we've been asking for quite a while now. And we thought we had an avenue to get it done, with some overlays and stuff like that. But as Linda said, we haven't seen it yet. So I think we've got some things we need to see get done before we can authorize moving forward with any future expansion or anything of these trails. So I'm kind of on board with, holding, everybody accountable for what we said we want to have done and get those things done.
And not 100% related to the Single Track Alliance. I think when we start accepting donations, we need to have a concrete accounting of the donations, where they are, put maybe in an escrow account with us or something to that effect. Because, we know that the donations for this single track, for this project, was not money they had in the bank. It was money that was given to them as they performed the work. Well, that's a slippery slope, because if the donor for the money decides they're out for any reason, then we have something that we accepted on a warrant article that doesn't really exist.
That warrant article was a petition warrant article.
Yeah, I understand that. But this is the kind of thing where if we have to make sure going forward that donations and monies are actually live and real.
Anything else? I think everything we talked about was pretty much addressed here in the letter from DES. We talked about the signage, the buffer, and that thing there, so that stuff. So I think, unless we have anything else new to talk about that.
I will take and work with the mapping. I'll have the bridge removed. I'll ask questions about the kiosk. The one thing I would say about the signage, I do believe that this board agreed that those signage was to be up by April of 2024.
Correct.
Right.
So
That's fine.
that is item that's underway. It's
Yes.
just that they've been ordered.
The other hard part about this is, and this happens all the time, every donation of something nice that's given to the town ends up being more work for our town manager and more money that we don't see in the beginning coming out of our pockets. Now we're going to have to pay to have maps constructed. We're going to have to pay to have kiosks put up. We're going to have to pay somebody to go up and measure 100 feet away from the spray lines. This is all, whether our DPW is doing it and their logging hours or whoever's doing it. So when you get a donation for something like this, it's not, it's nice. We have a free asset, but the asset comes with liabilities.
Well,
They all do.
All our recreation and assets cost us something in terms of park and rec, and some of that is the services that we provide for the community, is their recreation. Do I think we can be more careful? Yeah. But I think we are very lucky in this community, the amount of donations and the things that we have, because people are willing to give. And I don't want to put so many restrictions on it, it becomes difficult for people to give.
No, but I'd like to see the single track for this come up with a lion's share of the amount of money for the mapping of at least their trails that are operated with bicycles, and to come up with a fair share for the kiosks and other things like that. It's supporting their trails.
Okay.
Well, there are
nego-
trails.
You were in the negotiations with the
Yeah.
license agreement, Brian, right? So we're all at fault.
So we kind of have an idea where we want to move forward with this, so we'll head it down the road and see where it takes us, so. All right, next on the agenda, discussion, the first look at temporary event permit update.
So Amy's been working with department heads to kind of update the temporary events permit. No action really required at this point. It's basically take a look at it, give us some feedback, and we'll continue to move forward, hopefully for the first of the year.
So
The
we're
only
to come,
quick- the
should we
only-
to go, we're to make the changes to Amy? I've got some
Please.
changes, just go into Amy? Okay,
Please.
I'll do that.
The only question I had was, it says temporary outdoor event permit.
Correct.
So if we have the, if the EDC has our fall wrap-up in this building,
They didn't need to come, not outdoor.
Yeah, it's,
The reason last night had to come is because we've got them skating, we got them down over places,
Stays
we
to
have
a regular-
outside events. If we did it just in here and at the church, we wouldn't have to, but we have events outside.
just call here and make sure the room's available.
Okay, so everybody get their recommendations, thoughts, stuff to Amy on that, and we'll be looking at this again in December, the next meeting. Okay, approval of the town, 2024 town holidays.
So the only statement on this is December 31, 2024, Town Hall, because of the last night activities, will likely close at noontime.
They've done that before.
We've done that before.
Yep.
That's the only, so if we could get you to approve this, it would be wonderful.
Just one question. I'm assuming these are all in sync with all our union contracts. These are the ones that are called
Yeah, so
out.
there's a couple contracts out there that stipulate the actual holiday based on 24/7 operations.
Okay,
But yeah, it's defined out.
okay, I'm fine. I'll make a motion that we accept the holidays for the 2024 calendar.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Dave. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. What are we here? Other business. Do we have any other business? Seeing none, committee reports. Start down there with Brian.
Geez, what did we do?
2 budget committee.
Two budget committees, seems like 20. And then we had our special board meeting, which was, we had the meeting with the gentleman for the slate repair for the slate roof. Thank you, Luke, for fantastic drone footage. So hopefully we can get that slate roof fixed so that we don't end up, losing more shingles in the winter. And I think that's about it.
Luke?
I don't have any, actually, so it's been pretty nice.
Well, I got to join Brian twice at a budget committee meeting. I've had 2 last night, Wolfeboro meetings, and I had a Wolfeboro Waters meeting.
Had last night we had a planning board meeting, one of those nice short ones. We got out of here about 11 o'clock last night. And had a Wolfeboro Waters meeting with Linda, she just mentioned. Dave?
I had a meeting with the Friends of Abenaki. That's all I've had.
Okay. Town managers report.
Budget meetings, 2023 meetings with departments regarding their budgets, freezes, et cetera. Numerous phone calls with legal and New Hampshire DRA. And then one other thing I would just add, we received 2 bids for the Mass Landing project. One of the 2 bids were vastly different in the amounts, and we have awarded the bid, or will be awarding the bid. We have been in contact. There's no real conflict, but the bid will be awarded to a business owned by one of the Board of Selectmen members.
I have a question, and Steve's here. People keep on asking me, when's this going to happen? The lake's down. Is the lake going to stay down? When's it going to come? Will it fill up?
Hopefully.
Yes, it's filled by springs. It will.
It'll fill. It started now. We've ordered material, parts, so on and so forth. sometime in the next, I'm hoping we'll shut the dam off by the end of next week, beginning of the following week. I've been in touch with Julie. I talked to her yesterday, gave her a full update.
Okay.
And I told her I'd touch base with her at the beginning or so of next week as we start to proceed through.
Okay,
The construction schedule is gonna do all the deep stuff, work their way back,
okay,
and then we'll be able to start filling the lake back up. So
okay.
we're still within our timeframe, but it's cutting it close.
Well, you know, people, when they,
absolutely.
you know, they're just really concerned,
Yep.
you know, so, no, that's great. I'm glad it's gonna, you think next week or the week after it'll start.
I'm hoping by towards the end of next week, the beginning of the following,
Okay.
before Christmas,
Okay, I'll take that.
spring.
Right before spring. Yeah,
are we-
when the
are we gonna-
water, when it's all filled up, right?
Don't know what year, but it'll be by Christmas.
Are we going to talk other business?
We already did.
Oh, we already
Where are
did.
you?
Well, I just got an email from Mr. Rodriguez, and he said, thank Selectman Freudenberg for the pictures. He said they were perfect, thank you so much, and he'll be getting back to us very, very soon.
Good.
Thank you. Anything else on the town manager's report?
That's it, Brad.
Okay. Questions from the press? Is Alyssa with us?
I do not see her online this evening.
Okay. Public input? That's you.
You're here.
I'll take the easy, Suzie and Ryan, I'll take the easiest one first. I'm sure the board is aware of Bridge Falls Path, a proposal before the planning board to develop it for condos, I believe six units. How you got the information by pigeon carrier or whatever, I don't want to split hairs publicly on that, but nevertheless, you got some information on it. And my request to the board, the full board, is to do some research on Willow Road. I had spent a lot of time on it when the last proposal was before us, and I came up with quite a bit of information that I can't find. I don't know if I gave it to Amy, I don't know if I gave it to Linda, I don't know if the dog ate it, but I'll keep looking.
I don't have it.
You don't have it?
No.
No? So the deal with it is the length of the road. Does it stop before the path? Does it go over the path? Does it stop in the middle of the path? The town in 1994, I guess it was, bought that tract of land from, I believe it was B&M, and with the railroad company, whatever it was at the time, and we paid considerable amount of money for it. It wasn't one of those buy it for $1. And it needs to be protected, and you are the entity that can do that. I think that you need to get the full set of plans. I know Brad has them, but Brad's only one member. He can't speak for all of you till you tell him he can speak for you. And there's wetlands there that they were talking about last night, and it's a super small lot. It's 2 acres, 2 point something maybe, but it's limited as to what can be developed. And Linda, I know you're really concerned about runoff and water quality and so forth, so I don't know how much, because the town, I imagine the state owns the bay. I don't think we own the bay, so I don't know how much you can weigh in on that, but we abut that property, the whole length of his frontage. And it really needs to be taken seriously. Once that's developed, it's going to change the complexion of the whole area. I don't know whether it be for the good or the bad, and I'm not about to say, because I don't know if I'll end up at the ZBA, so I can't really say too much about that. But we need to find out the ownership of that strip of land, and the Willow Road, and we do have a plan of that old railroad bed. We have a plan.
We have that. We
Yes,
know,
we do.
we bought it, I think, from the state.
We bought it from the
DOT.
state of New
Yeah,
Hampshire, that's
yeah,
correct.
Yeah, we have that.
We pulled it out last time
Yeah, we
we
have
went
it.
around, so there's that plan, but I had talked to David Ford about Willow Road, and geez, he wasn't too certain either, he didn't probably want to say, but what I have found from the old deeds, there's a book back there. It's a big old book that's full of handwritten old stuff from the 1800s and on up about descriptions of our town roads. And what I did find was, but it didn't tell me where it told me where it began, but on Center Street, but it didn't tell me where it ended, other than it says it's .060 miles long, and that it's, or 316.8 feet long. But how accurate that is, I don't know. But that's, I implore you, please, to protect our land around there as best you can. You may be limited, I don't know. The second thing is, on November 23rd, there was a letter to the editor that certainly was not complimentary to the board and especially the town manager. And it was really kind of rough on you all and the process. And I'm not bringing this up to embarrass anybody. I would like to have you all have an opportunity to clarify some of it, because it's not really very nice. And the gist of the letter to the editor was about the estimated, what was it, 18% increase in the tax rate, and then it took a quote from you, Jim, that you were like dumbfounded about the amount or something. So I think I've been involved in the process enough to know basically how it works. And basically, the town manager usually sends out something to the department heads that says, this is where we're at, this is where I want your target to be. And town manager draws up the first draft of the budget, gives it to the Board of Selectmen. They hack at it or add to it or take from it, and then it goes to the Budget Committee. So it gets 3 sets of board's eyes on it. And that initial budget that was talked about was just that. It was just the beginning. And I think it's unfortunate that in Budgeting 101, it's not explained better maybe when you first come out with it. Now in July 19th, you had a meeting to kind of set your guidelines, your goals. And at that time, I really recommend somebody go online and go to the minutes of July 19th and see what was discussed in actual numbers and so forth. But town manager goal was increase no more than 9.75% or 1,663,000 for the general fund. And then, of course, we know the ambulance came along, and that blew everything to hell. So I guess then, if we took the ambulance lease for 1 year out, where are we on the budget? Be kind of interesting to know how much, did we stay under that 9.75% that was a target? Or did we go over it? And, but Jim, the floor is yours if you can help answer that negative letter to the editor in some fashion, because town managers don't write responses to letters of the editor. They shouldn't have to. But I think you've got the platform where you can explain some of that, whether it be tonight or another night is fine.
So I can take a couple minutes and go over a couple of items. You are correct. You know, I did have a goal to bring this budget in. We laid out the guidelines, as you said, in that July 19th meeting. And we identified right in there a series of items from increase in debt service, which was estimated at $650,000. We identified 2 agreed collective bargaining agreements for $104,000. We knew of health care increases estimated at $304,000. We had a fire truck lease payment of $184,000. And then we had a reevaluation estimated at $200,000. So those items alone brought us to $1.4 million before we even hit the go button. And you're right, I did have a goal of hopefully to bring this thing in under 10%. And then we got moving into the budget. And as we moved into the budget, working with department heads, all of a sudden we got hit with an increase in our ambulance service of $474,000. Okay, that ate up the balance of where I would have liked to have been moving forward. You know, and then we tipping fees at solid waste. You know, we're going to see an increase at solid waste of $184,000 this year. No fault of anybody's. It's the cost of operating the facility. You know, and then as we move forward, the actual increase of health insurance was an additional $75,000 over what we anticipated. And we had an increase in our executive budget of $75,000. Part of that was for some treatments, I believe, but also there was a request in there for an increase to Wolfeboro Community Television that's in there. So all of those items moved very quickly to increase where we were at. And when it all came together, the department heads brought what they could to us. I made significant cuts, and I think the department heads would tell you that they got haircuts in their budget review with me. And then they came in front of this board, and the same thing happened again. And then if you're watching the budget committee meetings, I think they're having a hard time finding places to make cuts based on the conversations that we're having. You know, there's one other option. If we aren't satisfied with the budget, that's to vote it down. Obviously, we don't want to see that happen, but it sends the message. But I think once we get the default budget built, there's going to be a lot of questions that we have to get answered legally. Does this increase in ambulance service, is that part of the default budget? Because we're still working on the contract. Is the revaluation, is that part of the default budget? These are all questions that we have to answer. And we'll have those answers. This is the time that we put that together. So, you know, I read the letter to the editor. Gentleman certainly entitled to his opinion, and I think he's probably got some statements in there that, yeah, you know what, there are some things in here that maybe I should have had a better handle on, such as, you know, we hired an additional firefighter last year, and we're hiring another one this year. By the time you round that up, that's $100,000. I didn't have that in my proposed budget. So, you know what, I have some ownership in this as well. But at the end of the day, I think you can ask any one of these board members. They saw the number. I think they probably thought there was a lot more fat in that budget than what there really is. And I think the Budget Committee is having a hard time with it right now, trying to find where that fat is.
We're still doing, we're pulling warrant articles and we're cutting money from warrant articles too, even tonight. Compared to last year, we've put a lot more thought and a lot more effort in the warrant articles tonight, then, you know, we're looking at nickels and dimes, trying to, you know, get things as.
So I don't know if I answered your question or not, Suzanne, but that's kind of my take on your statement.
You did, and thank you.
Okay, any other public input this evening? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to go into non-public.
Make a motion, we go into non-public?
Second.
Motion by Dave, seconded by Linda. All those in favor?
Yes,
Aye.
yes, yes.
Yes, yes. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.